Welcome to the City Council meeting for May 21st, 2024. Call this meeting to order, and the clerk will note that all council are present. And before we begin our meeting, for those of you sitting in the audience or watching at home, if you haven't yet voted, you still have 2 hours to do so, and I would encourage you to do this. This is a very important election, and I hope you will get out and vote. With that, we have an invocation tonight by Chaplain Steve Slover with the Salvation Army. Welcome, Chaplain.
Mayor Hammond, council members, let us pray. Father in heaven, please lead us and guide us as our mayor and Jim Hammond and as his representatives, the city council, along with our city, conduct the business of our Coeur d'Alene city and region. Give them wisdom beyond their years to draw on our past history, our present history, and to project our future history. Give them wisdom and understanding to govern for all the people of this great city. Help them to see what is best for the greater good and for the citizenry of our great state. God bless them. Thank you that they're willing to stand up for what they believe in. We thank you. Bless them. We know that it is not an easy job. They will not make everyone happy all the time. God bless our community in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Chuck. Would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I would be honored, sir. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does council have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we have one proclamation, and this proclamation is particularly poignant for the city of Coeur d'Alene. Whereas an average 700 people die each year in boating-related accidents, and whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error and poor judgment, and whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive if they had worn life jackets. And whereas modern life jackets are more comfortable and more attractive and more wearable than in the past, now therefore I, Jim Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through 24th as National Safe Boating Week in support of the goals of the North American Safe Boating Campaign and the start of a year-round effort to promote safe boating. And we're not presenting that to anybody. That's already been done. So Woody did a great job on that.
I'm smiling inside, honest, you guys.
Okay, we have several people who have signed up under public comment. I would remind you that there is a public hearing later on regarding a zone change. And if you have signed up under public comment to want to talk about that zone change, I would ask you to hold it until that item comes on the agenda. We'll begin with Marta Slover.
Maybe they'll hold it.
Okay. J-I-A-N-N-A-A-I-T-O.
Right here, senior council member.
Step up to the podium so we can get.
Well, he's for the,
I'm for one of the things you said.
You signed the wrong sheet.
My first time here.
That's fine. You might want to go back and sign the other sheet, though, so we do catch you at the correct time. Deb Mitchell?
I saw her. Oh.
Good evening.
On behalf of the area historic preservation advocates, I would just like to say thank you for moving to bring the moratorium to a discussion tonight, and in the hopes of preserving our beautiful historic buildings in the area. And I just want to make a short announcement that if anyone is interested in looking at two of our oldest buildings in Coeur d'Alene, this Saturday, May the 25th at 11 o'clock, the museum will be doing a walking tour of Fort Sherman. So you'll have an opportunity to visit the chapel, which was built in 1890, and the McCormick House.
Thank you. Linda Coppice,
Oh, you found it.
welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Hammond and City Council members. I am Linda Coppice, President and CEO of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber, and I'm here tonight to just say thank you for the amazing partnership that we have with the city. We've had, for the last couple of years, wonderful planning meetings to bring together our community's 4th of July celebration, and with each year, it gets more efficient and more smooth and easier to plan, thanks to all the wonderful people in all of your departments. So I just wanted to come and say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your hearts to serve our community, and I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, and we appreciate your efforts as well. I know the 4th of July parade is really a challenge in itself, and we appreciate you continuing to do that.
Thank you.
Richard Dance. Good evening.
Later this evening, you'll have an opportunity to approve an electrical and gas audit for the city, which we will hope save substantial amount of money for your budget. Wanted to give a brief introduction so you know a little bit more about that. The city pays about $300,000 per month in electricity and gas. About 20 invoices come from Avista, about 15 from Kootenai Electric. That's 35 total. A single invoice can be 22 pages long. The amount of each invoice ranges from $18 to $125,000 for the water department. I have a deep respect for the city accountants who have to put that all together every month and figure out what department all these bills go to. Avista, about 90% of your electricity and gas comes from Avista. It has rate schedules that go from 1 to 97 for electricity, 101 to 195 for gas. Changes in the rates occur about 1 to 10 times a year. The city gets invoiced for about 8 of these rates currently. Additionally, if you look at the Avista invoices, it has items such as area lights and city tax. And I'm wondering what city tax we're paying, if it's to us or somebody else. While rate increases have to go through regulatory approval, we need to be reminded that Avista is an investor company, not a public utility district, and the top executives make big bucks. Dennis Vermillion, President, CEO, and Director, makes $2,382,620 each year, slightly less than the mayor does. In February of 2024, he sold 10,900 of his shares for $385,640. I have no problem auditing this company to find rate savings for the city of Coeur d'Alene. Kootenai Electric does about 10% of your electricity and gas. They are a member-owned cooperative, the largest in Idaho. If you look at an invoice, look at the sort of things you're paying for each month. Service availability, kilowatt hours, power cost adjustments, demand charges, power factors, franchise fees, minimum charge difference, which is interesting, and upon occasion, you're paying for a wood pole. Must be a fancy wood pole, maybe a totem pole, but somehow you're getting charged for a wood pole every once in a while. They also have commercial energy efficiency rebates. I don't know which ones the city would be able to get, but it can be 70% of the incremental project cost to be energy efficient. Obvious questions in looking at bills are some things such as, one, why did the daily average rate go up 2.68 times the same month last year in one of your departments? Why is the CDA place 14.5% of the electrical bill with 84 other places with streetlights? Why is one pump on Hanley costing about $6,000 a month? These are obvious. The non-obvious questions are meter readings, incorrect rate application, pricing arrangements, usage anomalies, duplicate billings, administrative errors, tariffs, revenue surcharges, fuel cost adjustments, reactive charges, rider special provisions, index. Tri-Utility Cost Reductions has 35 years of experience, finds savings for 87% of its companies that its clients. Their aim is to get Coeur Lane the lowest rates for electricity and gas based on your industry usage and demand. The potential could be nothing. We could find that every rate is exactly what it should be. But it could be thousands of dollars, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in many cases, it's millions of dollars. And so I congratulate the city for later on this evening stepping forward to aid mayor and the city council in saving budget money. Thank you.
Joan Woodard. Welcome.
Hi. Going to get tired of hearing from me this month. I'm speaking about the matter before you this evening concerning public comment on the Marriott appeal. I would like to submit a document for your consideration. This document is on the city's website under informational documents and then under design review procedures. The document is titled Design Review Process. In Section 3, titled Submittal Requirements, it contemplates that there will be an initial meeting with the Design Review Board, and the items that would be reviewed are listed. A second meeting with the Design Review Board and additional documents to be presented, and then a final meeting with the Design Review Board, again with additional documents being required, including resolutions from input received in meetings 1 and 2. The reason for 3 meetings with the Design Review Board is so that the applicant doesn't get too far down the road with their design before they have considered all inputs of staff and the public. As this process is so clearly outlined in an official city document, I believe it would be reasonable for the public to assume that this would be the standard for a project such as the proposed Marriott. I recognize that the code has a different standard now, as it was changed at some point, but most residents probably don't read the code. They would rather look at this informational document, which outlines a very clear and logical process. So in the case of the Marriott, it was presented at only one Design Review Board meeting, where the public could have rightly assumed it would be presented 3 times, with an opportunity for the applicant to address the concerns of the citizens before the Design Review Board made a final recommendation. Following the method outlined in the informational document would also have been an appropriate method in line with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan for an informed public. It would also have provided the applicant and the planning department with input on the various design guidelines that the project does not conform to. The public is also aware that there are many factual deficiencies in the application and the applicant's presentation that the planning department and the city engineer did not pick up on before the design review rubber stamped it. So is it any wonder that the public wishes to be heard on this matter, and it seems the only place they are being offered an opportunity might be in front of the city council. So I urge you to consider this with these things in mind tonight. I also wonder why Chairman Messina, who's the chair of both the Design Review Board and the Planning Commission, didn't recuse himself from voting on the recommendation before you tonight. It seems to be a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Wahar Burns. That's Walter.
You know me.
Yes.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, I'm speaking tonight in support of a moratorium on demolition into downtown Coeur, downtown North Overlay, and downtown East Overlay. Our commission is currently working on 2 important projects that would greatly benefit from such a moratorium. First, in response to your past requests to review the downtown Coeur development standards and infill overlay standards, a task group has recently been formed. This group includes representatives from city staff, the Historic Preservation Commission, the Planning Commission, the Design Review Commission, the Downtown Association, and others. The purpose of this group is to review these standards and make recommendations to update them as necessary based on the changes that have occurred here in Coeur d'Alene since they were adopted over 15 years ago. This group will have our initial meeting tomorrow, a meeting scheduled twice a month thereafter. Concurrently, as I believe you know, the Historic Preservation Commission is studying ways to amend the current demolition permit process in order to allow review of demolitions of historic structures and to provide a mechanism for discussion with property owners. These two important initiatives will require time to ensure effective and responsible recommendations to council. A demolition moratorium would allow us this time without the threat of further demolitions in the interim. Idaho law states that a moratorium may be granted in response to an imminent peril to public health, safety, or welfare. As discussed with you in previous meetings, numerous studies have shown that the loss of older buildings has a negative impact on the mental health of local residents and to their sense of well-being. This effect is evidenced by the overwhelming support of a Save the Roosevelt Facebook petition that produced over 5,000 signatures in only 2 weeks. This is a clear statement that our community is passionate about Coeur d'Alene's historic buildings and that they imminently fear the loss of the sense of place that such structures bring. A moratorium will give us the time needed to thoughtfully and purposefully address the community's needs and desires. And finally, there is precedent. A moratorium to protect historic resources has, in the past, been enacted by other communities throughout Idaho. In your discussions tonight, we encourage you to support such an action here in Coeur d'Alene. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Casey Reese?
I'm here, but I think mine's for the, when we get to the zone change thing.
Okay.
So you said hold that, right?
Yeah, make sure that you have signed up for that, please. Okay, that closes the public comment period. Next, we have a discussion of a moratorium on demolitions.
It's not on the agenda tonight.
Where? I don't see it.
It's G, item G, people.
Item G.
Oh, there's just nothing below it. Okay. All right, we're with you.
It's just a discussion.
Okay.
Who would like to lead off on that?
Mr. Mayor, I'm ready.
Go.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue from Mr. Burns's comments. I have been doing some study on this. I'm the liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, and we have received some legal information and kind of put together, a lot has been happening simultaneously that kind of brought all this discussion together. So what I wanted to just kind of reiterate is that there is some plausible reasons why we would, as a council, ask to have the moratorium as an action item come forward to an agenda. So I'd like to suggest that that happen on June 18th. A lot of the reasons are that as Walter just mentioned, starting tomorrow, council had asked for a review of the downtown overlay, and that ad hoc committee has just been formed. They need more time in order to do that work and bring recommendations back to council, but they haven't started yet. And there isn't a demolition permit that exists in the Coeur d'Alene City Code. Any demolition comes through Idaho Building Code process, and we need some time to discuss if that change is warranted or not. And because, even as mentioned, the public anxiety has been a little exacerbated recently with the loss of some buildings and the threat to some others. So we need to be able to have some time to put together answers to their questions that are factual, and we can do some outreach to help inform the public of what we can and we can't do. So the process, as I understand it, is this evening, council has to agree to, I guess we don't have to agree, we have to, it's not an action item, we have to request that we have this item come forward to an agenda on June 18th. If we do agree that, then what we need to do tonight is give staff some clear direction for that agenda that outlines what the interim ordinance, which is a statute-driven item, that will be presented to council on June 18th. And so if we decide to do that, staff can be directed to include things, not limited to this, but in that outline to include things like defining an area or buildings that would be subject to this moratorium, describing and creating a potential permit review process and what that would look like, considering of adding a demolition code that we don't have right now, and describe consideration of a voluntary historic overlay process, and include requirements that council needs to know about should they pass it, what the consequences and risks are. That's kind of the step. Then on June 18th, if council passes a moratorium, then the whole process is different in that it gives council the ability to say how long this moratorium would be in effect, 6 months or 1 year, and they have to create a plan that they execute within that period of time that will address the issues and correct them that triggered the moratorium to be executed in the first place, and have that done within that moratorium period. They have to have a clear statement as to what the imminent peril to public health, safety, or welfare is, and that is what the goal of the plan would correct. So I just wanted to share that's the discussion basis, and I think that if there's questions there, we can take this time to discuss it. But my recommendation is that there is enough reason to ask that a moratorium come to council as an action item and give direction to staff tonight.
Dan?
Well, just for, I certainly support the effort to bring it forward as an agenda item and then go with that. I guess my only question is the timing. We have a whole lot of things in the chute and want to make sure, I don't remember if we sent something for the NIC, or the overlay district. I want to make sure, that, in my mind, that's a higher priority within the chute first and has more eminent, so anyway, where are we on the timing on that? Do we know?
We actually met today to discuss that. We have a plan moving forward. We have a lot of ideas. Councilman Member Gookin provided us with some ideas as well. We're trying to incorporate that into a draft ordinance to present to members of the public as well as NIC, and then bring it to council for your input and direction.
Okay, so this won't sideline that, okay.
Just to be clear, I did talk with Hillary on the schedule and the date, and this is why I kind of brought up, it's kind of a 3-phase process in that we need to ask to have it be placed on the agenda. That is the first piece of work. If it passes, then there's another piece of work. So it's not all happening simultaneously.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm good. But I had a question because you mentioned something about an ad hoc committee on the downtown overlay. I haven't heard about that. What's going on?
That's what, I can't speak to it specifically. It's not under historic preservation. My understanding is that we directed council, as council, we directed a review of that downtown overlay and of the 2 pieces, the overlay and the code. Is that right? And so, Hillary, would you mind, because it's comprised of members of multiple different organizations?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So yes, it's a working group, so it's kind of just an ad hoc group. So council had asked us to look at the downtown development regulations as well as infill regulations and design guidelines. And so we were asked to work with the Historic Preservation Commission. So we have 3 members of the Historic Preservation Commission, and then we have members of the Design Review Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission, a representative from the Downtown Association, and 2 community members that are helping us just start the process, and then we'll be checking in with council to find out how else do you want us to engage the public, what else would you, it's looking at all the things you asked before, height, parking, floor area ratio, the FAR bonuses, all those things, as well as the historic preservation components and design.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to see some council member representation on that committee, please.
I think there's too many committees that go on here that don't have us on it, and so a lot of this stuff comes as a complete surprise to us, and therefore, as representatives of the public, I'd like to see one or two of us up there. Thank you.
sure
We would
that they'd
welcome
be
it. We were
glad
actually
to
going to
have you
ask, sorry to interrupt, but
join
we were
them.
going to actually ask if any member or two of council would like to be part of that. So the first meeting is tomorrow, and
Please
The
let,
first meeting's tomorrow.
please let
That's the kind
Joanne
of
know.
respect we get. Thank you.
Please let Joanne know if you're interested in being a part of that. But back to the discussion on
meeting's
the
tomorrow.
moratorium.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great idea to bring it forward on the 18th and see what we might want to approve or not approve and how to move forward. I understand we would probably get some direction from legal to make sure that we're playing in the lines correctly. We know Idaho's a private property state, but we respect private property rights, but we really want to protect our historical buildings as well. So we got to figure out how best to do that. So I completely agree with Councilman Miller to bring it forward.
Woody?
I have a few questions on what is historical structure. Are they going to define that, what that is? I mean, I've heard it, but I don't know how to tell you what is and what isn't. The other one is imminent peril. It sounds like something's over our head and it's scary. The other one is the mental health impact, and I don't quite get that. I know I have a bad day once in a while, but I don't think of it as impacting something like this. It sounds like, and I'm up for it, it's just we're going into a meeting of possibly changing the way it's been. And normally, when we do things like that, we work on it and then we bring it forward, and then that's the beginning. Where this is, we're going to stop everything and now we're going to talk about changing it. And it seems maybe it's just I'm upside down or backwards. I'm just kind of getting the feeling that it's the cart in front of the horse. Am I alone on that?
Well, I can only, if I may,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Any comments there? Kiki?
I won't do that again. I might do that again, and I apologize in advance.
And I will stop you again.
Thank you. I can only answer a couple things. That's the legal language is imminent peril, public safety, and health. And it's been this type of situation in Idaho has happened, and it stood up. So I think that we aren't setting a precedent by doing this with that situation. The other thing is, because the buildings that we are losing by the month. If we don't take action to look at it now, by the time we did all the work to draft everything, we will have lost more of those buildings. And there aren't very many more hugely significant historical buildings that I feel the community is telling us that we can afford to lose. So that's the reason for doing it, bringing the discussion forward first, then letting council decide if it is something that the city needs to do, then executing the action plan to actually make those changes. But in the meantime, if it takes us a year to do that, we could have lost 3 or 4 or 10 more historic buildings. Does that help?
Well, it doesn't explain what a historic structure is,
Well-
but I get you.
Let's hold
Oh.
that discussion
Sorry.
to the discussion on a moratoria
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to work through all that tonight. The issue tonight is just whether we want to put that on the agenda. I do want to stress a couple things. Number one, if this moves forth on the agenda, which I assume it will, that doesn't necessarily mean that the council is going to pursue a moratorium. It only means that further discussion will occur. As far as the June 18th date, I'm not going to guarantee that as well. I will work with staff, and there are priorities that we've already got in front of us, and taking into consideration what Kiki has shared about the concern of waiting too long. I also want to make sure that we take care of things that are immediate and have already made, to which we've already made commitments. So we will work on getting that on the agenda, hopefully June 18th, but if not, very soon. Any announcements? I know there are some, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of announcements. The first are in regards to our Bike and Pedestrian Committee. And I want to send a thank you out to our committee members for planning a great for creating a great Bike to Work week last week. And thank you to the citizens who came out and joined us on Friday morning. We rode from the Starbucks near Costco down to City Hall for Bike to Work, and it was a really fun event. And we finished up the week with a celebration at Unchained. Also, we had an announcement that June 1st is National Trail Day, and we will be celebrating by spending 3 days with Tubbs Hill volunteers building a new trail from the museum to the main loop trail on Tubbs. The work days will be May 30th, I'm stumbling over my words tonight, May 30th, 31st, and June 1st. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can contact the city's Park and Rec Department. Also, a couple of announcements from our Arts Commission. We are currently receiving nominations for the Mayor's Awards in the Arts. These are going to be due by August 30th and awarded in October at our annual event. Nominees can be businesses, organizations, individuals, students who have made a significant contribution to the arts in Coeur d'Alene. And one more announcement from the Arts Commission on our Arts Currents program. Arts Currents provides high visibility outdoor gallery space for each piece chosen throughout high traffic streets, parks, and public spaces in town. These pieces enrich the beauty of our city landscape while providing exposure to the artists. You may recognize many of them going up and down Sherman Avenue as a lot of our Art Current pieces, and then along the side streets as well. So right now, our application process is open with a July 1st deadline, and you can find the information on our city website under the Arts Commission's page.
Thank you. Christy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to publicly thank the fire department. I asked them last week to put together a demonstration with our new fireboat with the Tubbs Hill Foundation members. And they pulled it together very quickly, and the members gained a lot of knowledge about the capabilities of the fireboat and the kind of rescues and things that they perform on Tubbs Hill. And greatly appreciated how quick you did that, and it was very informative. Thank you.
Karen?
Some will remember that about the first of the year, the Coeur d'Alene Press did one of their things they usually do about our goals and things for the new year. And I did one saying that I'd like to follow through on my campaign stuff about promoting civil engagement within our community. So that series is coming up. It's a 6-week series that I will be co-facilitating. I'm from the political point of view. We have a local pastor, Pastor Matt Erickson from Calvary Lutheran Church, and then Megan Coons, who is the associate professor for the online Boise State mental health program here. And it's a 6-week series that is, combines the, our political engagement that we should be doing, but how to do it in a respectful way that, validates the faith community and also promotes civil engagement. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It'll be right here from 3 to 4:30 every Saturday afternoon starting June 1st for a 6-week series. So I will be getting something out, like in the press or something, where you can go to a link or something, but hope to see some of the folks out there.
Yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, from our last episode, when I was here, on April 16th, I made some requests of staff to report back on Friday, the 19th of April, regarding some items that council has asked and when those items will be brought forward. So on Monday, the 22nd, I received this email, which was a follow-up, and here's what it said. So regarding the Budget Committee, there will be further discussions of the Budget Committee, and I met with the mayor and and Councilmember McEvers, and so we will be moving forward that with some involvement from the public. So hopefully that gets started soon. There was no date set to that one. The deadline for the billboards amendment will be coming forward. I hear that's coming to our next General Services Public Works meeting, which is Monday, I think. But the date here says June 11th. Parking requirements and height restrictions need to be reviewed. That might be coming the second council meeting in July. The college rezone, which Councilmember English asked about earlier, it says here that's the first council meeting in July. A complete review of design review guidelines, rules, and ordinances. That will take some time. Possibly November is the answer I got. And then an amendment for design review that would allow public comment. That's happening tonight. So that's your update from last episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Woody?
I've got a fun one. Next Saturday, skate park, we're having a big demo, food, fun, music. If you're into skating or you know people are, come by and check it out. It's going to run from 11 in the morning until dusk.
Are you going to be showing some of your skate tricks?
Yeah, I was going to try and get enough padding to be able to do that.
Is that the Woody McEvers skate park you're talking about?
No, just the Coeur d'Alene skate park, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as presented, including resolutions 24041.
Second.
We have motion and second. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Okay. So we have taken a public hearing, which normally falls later in our meeting, to an earlier time because we knew we had a lot of folks wanting to provide input into this issue. You will have, when your name is called to provide testimony, you will have 3 minutes. And I will hold to that because we have so many folks wishing to provide testimony. Further, I would ask, please, pretty please, that if somebody else has expressed your view, that you can quickly express that you share that same view, and unless you have something new to add. Okay. With that, and if you haven't signed up, are there any more sheets back there? We have a lot of folks that have signed up tonight. I don't know how you can tell anything from that, but we do. At this point, we'll start with our staff report. Mike Bahari is here as our associate planner.
Excuse me,
Welcome,
Mayor.
Mike.
Mayor, I just wanted to remind you of the
Oh.
group swearing in.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd do that before we open the public hearing. But you'll probably have to remind me again.
Swearing in.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a public hearing for item ZC-1-24. The applicant is GS4 Property LLC, and they're represented by Fusion Architecture. They're requesting a zone change from neighborhood commercial to C17 on property that is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of 15th Street and Best Avenue. Legal notice was published in the Coeur d'Alene Press on May 4th, 2024, and all other required notifications have been made. Here is a location map indicating where this property is located within the city. It's highlighted here in red. This is 15th Street. This is Best Avenue. Here's a close-up aerial photograph of the property highlighted in red. Again, this is 15th Street and Best. Here's a bird's eye view looking north and a bird's eye view looking southeast. The applicant has submitted a conceptual site plan indicating they'd like to build a 4-pump fuel station and market with a 2,500 square foot quick serve restaurant. The following items are being proposed by the applicant to address the neighborhood's compatibility. there are similar aspects as to the existing gas station and store that the applicant owns on the corner of South Celtice Way and Atlas Road. Items such as low-profile signage, no LED reader boards, fuel filling will not be excessive, limited to the number of filling stations, which is 4 pumps, electrical car charging potential, and fuel canopy lights that will be turned off after 11 p.m. There are 4 findings that need to be met in order for a zone change to be approved. Finding B1 through B4, and we'll go over each and every one of these, starting with B1. B1, that the proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan indicates this area is in the mixed-use low place type. The mixed-use place types represent the form of future development as envisioned by the residents of Coeur d'Alene. Each place type corresponds to multiple zoning districts that will provide a high level of detail and regulatory guidance on items such as height, lot sizes, setbacks, and allowed uses. Mixed-use low places are highly walkable areas, typically up to 4 stories. Development types are primarily mixed-use buildings with retail, restaurants on corners, or along the entire ground floor frontage, but could also include townhomes and multifamily housing. This place type is typically developed along a street grid that has excellent pedestrian and bike facilities. Compatible zoning districts within the mixed-use low place types are C17, C17L, neighborhood commercial, and community commercial zoning districts. The comprehensive plan indicates existing and planned bicycle networks, existing and planned walking networks, and existing transit. This property is located here next to an existing bicycle network. There's existing public sidewalks along Best and 15th, and the nearest public transit is on Government Way. The next 2 slides represent comprehensive plan goals and objectives as it relates to this zone change request. Goal 1 for community identity, maintain a high quality of life for residents and businesses that make Coeur d'Alene a great place to live and visit. And Goal 1 for growth and development, to develop a mix of land uses throughout the city that balance housing and employment while preserving the qualities that make Coeur d'Alene a great place to live. Second goal for growth and development would be ensure appropriate high-quality infrastructure to accommodate community needs and future growth. The full list of comprehensive plan goals and objectives is at the back of your staff report. The next finding is finding B2, that the public facilities and utilities are not available and adequate for the proposed use. This application has been routed to the city departments for engineering, streets, water, fire, police, parks, wastewater departments have all reviewed this application in regards to public utilities and public facilities, and each department has indicated that there are adequate public facilities and public utilities available to serve the proposed zone change request. To see the full list of staff comments, look at page 15 and 16 of your staff report. The next finding is finding B3, that the physical characteristics of the site do or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. The site is generally flat and with a slight elevation drop towards the east part of the property. There are no topographical or physical constraints that would make the subject property unsuitable to change the zoning from NC to C17. Here's a topographical map indicating the topography. Each one of these white lines is a 5-foot drop in elevation, slightly drops towards the east. The next 5 photos are site photos of the property. This one is standing on the northeast corner looking south. This is on the northeast corner looking west. This is on the north central part of the property looking south through the property. This is on the northwest part of the property looking east. And this is on the center of the property looking northwest through the property. The last finding is finding B4, that the proposal would or would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. The city engineer has indicated that the 4-pump gas station and market will generate 133 morning peak hour trips and 153 evening peak hour trips. It is assumed that many of these trips would be bypass trips rather than diverted trips. The city engineer has also indicated that 15th Street is a major collector, and it is unlikely that this use will adversely affect the traffic on 15th Street. Future 15th Street improvements will upgrade the traffic signal to better accommodate traffic. Access to 15th Street will be limited to approximately the south half of the parcel to ensure approaches are not within the functional area of the Best Avenue intersection. Here's an existing zoning map indicating there are R17 to the south, R12 to the west, C17 to the northwest, R12 to the north, and County Ag Suburban to the east. This is the proposed zoning of C17. And the C17 district is intended as a broad spectrum commercial district that permits limited service, wholesale, retail, and heavy commercial, in addition to allowing residential development at a density of 17 units per gross acre. This slide is a list of some of the principal uses that are permitted in the C17 district. Uses such as banks, childcare, department stores, restaurants, hospitals, hotels, gas stations, veterinary offices. See page 23 and 21 through 23 of the staff report for all the C17 district information. The following uses on the left side of the slide are permitted uses in the neighborhood commercial district. Commercial and professional office, medical, daycare, personal services. The uses that are permitted are on the right side of the slide that are prohibited in the neighborhood commercial, such as commercial parking, industrial, mini storage, gas stations, and warehouses. The neighborhood commercial district has development and design standards. And so operating a business you're only allowed to operate a business between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. And site and design standards, at least 50% of the floor area facing the arterial street must be glass. Buildings must be designed with a residential character, including elements such as pitched roofs, lap siding, and wide window trim. Surface parking should be located to the rear or to the side of the principal building. The C17 district also has development and design guideline standards. Building standards such as screening the rooftop, windows facing the street, the intent is to have commercial activities visible from the street, and then site design, parking lot landscaping, dumpster screening, street trees, or just to mention a few of the standards. Here's an existing land use map. So to the south, we have multifamily. To the west, single-family dwellings. To the northwest, we got a commercial gas station and mini mart. To the north, single-family attached housing. And to the east, we have single-family and duplex housing in the county. There's a zone change map showing the zone changes that happened in the vicinity of this property. And in 1982, there was a zone change from R12 to C17, and that was approved in item ZZ-2-82. So the decision point tonight is consider the applicant's request for the zone change from neighborhood commercial to C17. And council may impose conditions upon rezoning where such conditions are required to ensure that proposed uses of the area are consistent with community needs and its public health, safety, and general welfare. Items for consideration are height, setbacks, landscaping, hours of operation, lighting, no drive-through windows, to mention a few. So the action alternatives tonight. You must consider this request, determine if the criteria for the zone change have been met, and make appropriate findings to approve with conditions, deny, or deny without prejudice. If approved with conditions, you will need to include those conditions in your findings. And that concludes my presentation.
Questions? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, if the proposed project didn't have the gas pumps there, would it still be okay under NC?
The applicant will be allowed to build what those uses were allowed in the NC, which would be retail sales, which a market would be allowed.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Christie?
Oh, thank you. Just to follow up on that, what would the height be? What would the height restrictions be on anything built on that property?
In the current zoning?
At current.
I don't know right off the top of my head. Yeah, I think it's 32 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
A quick question on the neighborhood commercial. So a market is allowed. Just ask, what about a restaurant?
Yes, let me go to those existing. These are the permitted uses in the neighborhood commercial. commercial and professional office. A restaurant would not be allowed.
No, it would be. We determined under commercial.
It would?
Yes.
Oh, so it would be allowed.
So a market and a restaurant would be allowed, but yet the
Gas pumps would
gasoline
not.
services would not.
Yeah,
Okay,
specifically prohibited, yeah.
thank you.
Woody?
Could you go back to the existing zoning map? So Kitty Corner up there is a C-17, correct? Those
That's
two
correct.
lots there, I think it's a gas station and a fast food store.
That's
Across the street, there's a C-17. And then the R-12s, and then you have another map that breaks it down into mixed low, compact neighborhood, all these different words. The zoning, that's zoning, and this other stuff is,
Future land use, what the comprehensive plan has indicated what the future land use should be.
future land use should be.
Yeah.
So my question then is, back when that top piece, 1982, it was zoned C-17, it came from a R-12.
That's correct.
So R-12 is kind of a, give me some idea, is that high-density housing?
R12 is single-family and duplex housing,
Single-family duplex?
12 units per acre, yes.
Okay, so that turned into went from 12 to 17, okay.
That's correct.
And he's wanting to try and do C-17 Kitty Corner.
That's correct.
So that he can do those two uses plus the gas station.
Plus the gas pump, that's correct.
I think I got it, thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, is staff going to present anything on the findings of planning and zoning? We've got it in our packet, but the public doesn't have the information.
Is this de novo, Randy?
Yeah, I could,
It's de novo.
Planning Commission did make a recommendation for denial at their January hearing.
And did they give specifics that you
They
could
did,
share?
and it's outlined in the staff report. On items
Right,
A-
I know, I have that, but the public doesn't have it.
Okay. Don't, hand me the staff report, I can read it.
It's long.
While he's getting that, Dan?
Well, I have a question with the, you talked about the, it would, as currently proposed, or current by right, they could do the, they could do food and the fast food, or not?
So they're
What
allowed to
can
do
they-
with the restaurant and the market in the neighborhood commercial.
Okay, so the fast food / market and the restaurant, and then by right, the, like professional offices, so
That's correct.
minus the gas station part, I mean, or the, you know, okay.
So I could go ahead and read that part if you'd like.
Thank you.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this zone change request at their regular scheduled hearing on January 9th, 2024. In a unanimous vote of 7-0, they recommended that the City Council deny the zone change request from NC to C-17. The Planning and Zoning Commission found that the proposed development would still negatively affect the surrounding neighborhood in terms of increased traffic, non-residential noise, and light, which would be greater than the uses permitted in the NC zone. In this case, the Planning and Zoning Commission found that the zoning is incompatible with the surrounding zoning and uses other than the commercial uses to the northwest. Everything else in the area to the north, south, and east and west is residential.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Yes.
Good morning. Mike, can you talk about hours of operation and what's allowed in neighborhood commercial versus C-17?
C-17, there's no restriction on hours of operation.
And neighborhood commercial is?
It is restricted from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Thank you.
Kiki, did you have another?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Woody?
Oh, the findings talked about traffic, the impact of traffic, and yet we just read the engineer said it wouldn't impact the traffic. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then light, they said it would be too bright, impact the neighborhood. Was that the other finding they had?
For the Planning Commission?
Yes, I thought you read the
I
light.
think they mentioned that.
Sorry, Mike.
That's all
Didn't mean
right.
to put you on the spot.
That's all right. Yeah, and light.
Okay, and then I thought the the person who wants to do this said he would turn the lights off at 11 or something.
That is correct.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Thank you.
But that would be a condition you would want to put on the zoning, conditional zoning.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Before we move on further then, because even the applicant needs to be sworn in, correct? Now, many of you have signed up. You didn't express a desire to testify. You just want your opinion expressed, which is fine. If you wish to actually testify, you need to be sworn in. And rather than do that individually, we're going to do that in a group swear-in. And so all those who wish to actually come to the podium and testify, would you please stand and let the clerk swear you in?
Please raise your right hand and respond by saying, I affirm. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. And now we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, council members and Mr. Mayor. My name is Rex Anderson. I'm the architect for the project, working with the property owner, Andy Singh. I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, lived here for 18 years before going to college at the University of Idaho. I now practice in Spokane, Washington, where I own a small firm. I guess at the onset here, we presented an option early on. When Andy purchased the property, he approached Hillary and Mike and kind of discussed what were the options for zone change in a proactive measure to discuss how to be successful with building a gas station on this property. And at the onset, Hillary and Mike gave Andy some very specific requirements that would be successful, to address light, allow for conditional zoning with regard to the property, as well as some of the other things that I'm going to discuss in my presentation here: low profile signage, no LED, and really be responsive to the neighborhood with the aesthetic that's got gable roofs. To, I guess, also describe at the onset our initial presentation to the Planning Commission. We saw the zone change as a bit of a formality at that point, just having read the comprehensive plan. And since that Planning Commission review, Andy and I spent a lot of time trying to create a design that was responsive to the neighborhood, receiving their comments, and illustrating our intended design under the C-17, as well as what the NC zoning would allow, and present to you how the C-17 design would be more responsive to the neighborhood and a better design for the community. We even extended our time from the Planning Commission to today in order to create that design. I should also say that invited neighbors from the surrounding area to meet us at a local conference room to discuss and receive their input on the design. No one from the neighborhood did show up, and that was about a month ago. To start off with our design, Andy Singh has developed a brand locally, his first new construction store in the area. They also own a store on Northwest Boulevard. His store at Atlas and Celtice, the emphasis for that store is a neighborhood market. If you go into that store, you'll find quick serve items. He has a commercial kitchen. There's high quality goods that you'll find in an open cooler at the store. And he curates the products that he has in his store based on the input that he receives from his customers and based on national trends. And so I want to emphasize that any discussion about this being a C-store or a convenience store, I would encourage those to take in what he has built at Atlas and Celtice, where the design, he has focused on providing a high-quality design, and the store is bright. He's got great products in there. He does also sell gas, but the emphasis for this store is neighborhood market. Since our planning commission meeting, he has incorporated into the design. We're actually going to reduce the number of fuel stations down to 3. As you'll see in the design, he's trying to be as conciliatory as possible with regard to just restricted zoning. He has emphasized that he will limit what he can develop on the site under that C-17 in order to be responsive for the neighborhood. As part of this presentation to the Planning Commission, initially, as I described before, was limited because our proposed zone change was endorsed by the City of Coeur d'Alene Comprehensive Plan, as well as the city agencies. Just to reiterate what that comprehensive plan says is it sets a framework to guide future growth and development, as well as helping make strategic decisions for the next 20 years. It addresses the state of Idaho's comprehensive plan requirements and incorporates implementation strategies to guide how we achieve the community's vision for the city. These are views that kind of supplement what Mike presented a few minutes ago. This is looking south at the intersection of 15th and Best. The first topic we bring up here is, why does NC zoning not work at the signalized intersection of 15th and Best Avenue? NC has only been assigned to mostly single-family homes that have been converted to office spaces. No NC lots in Coeur d'Alene are on signalized corners and intersections. All other developed NC lots are less than a third of an acre. This property is nearly 1 acre, 0.93 acre. All other NC zoning is abutting single-family residential. Arlette does not. NC zoning requires parking in the rear. This puts lights and vehicle noise adjacent to duplexes abutting residential. As you'll see in our NC zone design option, we feel, and it'll be presented in our design, that what is encouraged under the NC zoning will actually be more impactful to the surrounding neighbors than it would under our C-17 design option. These are examples of the NC zoning surrounding the property. And it's our conclusion that 15th and Best does not conform to existing NC zoning. Next question we raise here is, why is 15th and Best vacant today? We feel that there's too many restrictions in the NC zoning. The size of the lot at 15th and Best is larger than any other NC zoned property in the city, and the lack of feasibility within the NC zoning at this location. Our NC zone design option that we're going to present here, what we would do is, under what would be allowed under the current zone, is we would subdivide the property into 2 lots, and we would build four 1,100 square foot retail suites, and in lot 2 we would do a 4,000 square foot market, 2 4,000 square foot markets. This would be our proposed design that would conform to NC zoning. As defined, the height limit under NC zoning is 32 feet. What you can see, this parking lot here would actually abut the residential to the east of the property, allowing for lights and traffic to, directly abutting the residential. Also, as you'll notice in this option, development can happen right up against the street. The next slide, we're going to provide our potential C17 zoning lot development. This will be a 4,600 square foot market with a small fuel island. Note that this footprint has been reduced from our original option that we presented to the Planning Commission back in January. The amenities for this market will be expanded grocery at supermarket prices, smoothies and fresh squeezed juices, produce, small hardware section, coffee stand inside, no drive-through, upscale landscaping, and a building that fits into the neighborhood. And I need to emphasize the context of trying to fit into the neighborhood. The option that we're going to provide here, you'll notice the gable roofs, the dormers, and materials that are more sympathetic to the surrounding residential context. This view would be along 15th, looking east. As part of the design, Andy has been pretty adamant about incorporating the bike lane, the landscaping buffer, the trees, and the low profile of the design. There is a sign here, but you'll notice the materials, the use of stone and wood, and the gable forms that are that you can see throughout the project are really trying to be minimally impactful. This is kind of in contrary to the previous zoning. This is another view, kind of an aerial view looking at the intersection, looking kind of to the southwest. Again, you see that the fuel island has been reduced from our original presentation to the Planning Commission. What we have done is we have surrounded the fuel canopy with trees and landscaping. We've even separated the fuel island from the store with landscaping as a way of trying to de-emphasize the fuel canopy. We'll keep the fuel canopy low. A lot of times you'll see the fuel canopies, they're out of metal, they're bright, they're white. These wouldn't have lights to them. And then as well as the landscaping that you see along Best right here. Notice heavy landscaping. There's a courtyard out here. This would most likely be used for eating spaces during the warmer weather. And then I think the next big difference that you find with this design is the landscape buffer that you have separating this proposed C17 option from the neighboring residential. Trees, as well as backing the store up against the property, turning its back to it so that it really provides a second buffer from the residential, from the houses, and really keeps the automobiles and the lights away from the houses. Resolving the neighbors' complaints heard at planning and zoning meeting and city staff recommendations, resolutions were that we kind of took from that meeting were the store would be blocked by extra trees and landscaping buffers on all four sides, which was evident in the renderings. The low visibility fuel island, trees on all sides. We will not be open 24 hours. We will strictly abide by a 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. It was mentioned earlier 11 p.m., but Andy would shut down the lights at 10 p.m. every night. We will keep building height to a maximum of 20 feet. That's in much lower than the NC zoning option that you saw there. Any further stipulations or conditions of a zone change will be agreed to. And we'd be willing to roll these measures into a development agreement with the city. Why C17 zoning? First and foremost is equality. There are many C17 lots already in the vicinity. This has been endorsed by the comprehensive plan. Additionally, this has also been endorsed, as was pointed out by Councilman McEvers, with regard to traffic impact. It was deemed that there would be no greater traffic impact, in contrary to what the Planning Commission had stated before. With regard to the lighting, we have felt like this design option, again, we have provided a landscape buffer as well as using the building to buffer this project from the surrounding neighborhood. This parcel of land is located at a high traffic intersection, 15th and Best / Appleway, less than 1 mile from I-90, which is on a major arterial and is a highly walkable area, which classifies the lot as a mixed use low. This 1 acre lot is compatible with mixed use low in the comprehensive plan. Mixed use low designation is zone C17 and C17L, NC and CC zoning districts. This map is a zoomed out version of what Mike presented a minute ago, just emphasizing some of the additional C17 lots that are also in the area along Best. At this point, I'm ready to answer questions.
Questions, Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rex, so you have two options. You have an NC option and you have a C17 option.
That is correct.
So why are they different? I mean, is it that if it says NC, you can't just put your C17 thing there? What's stopping you?
Well, the intention with that process is to say if we were to follow the direct code path, how this project, as presented, would actually be a less desirable option for the community and for the neighborhood. Taller buildings at 32 feet. We would have the potential to do 4 1,100 square foot, retail shops on one lot, and then 2 retail options on the south side of the site. From a purely business perspective, this would be a much better option. But the option that Andy is looking to do is much more responsive and I think fits into the community and makes it better.
So I still don't understand why you can't do your C17 design in the NC zone.
It's the gas. We can't do gas.
You want the gas. So if there was no gas, you could still do something that looks like.
Yeah. Additionally, which Andy just pointed out, is under the NC zoning, parking has to be in the back.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Christie?
May I? Can you tell me, when you attempted to meet with the neighborhood, which I very much appreciate that you made that effort, how were they notified? And I am disappointed that there wasn't any conversation, but did they have a lot of notice? What happened there?
So Andy, it was Andy's idea. He went door to door and also mailed out options. And we rented a conference room at the Coeur d'Alene Inn, and came with renderings. He brought, just merchandise from his store, and wanted to engage with the community for 2 hours. And it was advertised, and nobody showed up. And I think what we perceived at the Planning Commission meeting, just to be perfectly candid, is that we received a lot of pushback at that meeting. And Andy, he purchased this lot. He reached out to Hillary and Mike. How do I put this forward in a way that can be successful? And we got a lot of pushback in that meeting. He said, okay, how can I be successful with this? And one of the 2 measures that we did is we provided an NC zone option of the design to provide how, I guess, from an architect's perspective, less desirable it would be from a community standpoint and impactful on the neighborhood. Also providing the C17 option to kind of illustrate, one, the low impact from a development standpoint that he'd want to do. Smaller footprint store, heavy on the landscaping. Let's screen the gas islands as much as possible. I mean, this is what Andy does best. He sells these things, and he can be successful with a smaller store, less fuel islands. And then I think the second effort was reaching out to the community to receive their feedback on the design. We showed up with this material to illustrate how we wanted to propose this and to see what they had to say.
Okay. I'm not sure how this will go tonight, but is there a chance the property would be sold in the future? And I think I know if he did decide to sell it, I guess I know that the height could go back up to 32 feet. The other things that are allowable would go on.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, Andy has been very outspoken with being open to conditional zoning as a contingent factor to the approval here. I think that what you're going to see tonight is people are going to come forward and state how C17 is just going to allow, there's going to be no limit on height. That's a bit of a misconception from a life safety and fire department standpoint. It is, to a certain height, restricted by fire sprinkler availability, by water availability. It's not Andy's intention to do that. And I think that what he has put forward is he is fine if you tell him, you can only do this high, or the lot coverage, or incorporate what Mike and Hillary have proposed with regard to turning the lights off at 10, or no LED signs after a certain time of day. He's trying to be responsive to making this change happen in a way that isn't impactful to the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Woody?
So I think I just heard it. So the theory is you guys are willing to take that design that you're showing us, and you're willing to replicate the rendering to that design and do a development agreement. So theoretically, if you commit to that or you get supported, that's all you can do there. And it stays with the dirt. He can't change his mind and do something else. Is that the
That would be what he has proposed, is a development agreement with the city to say, look, I'm not going to come in here and deviate from what we're proposing here today, and that's in being response to what the community has said, and that's what the designs that we're putting forward here are trying to do, is to say, look, we've listened, we've listened to what the community has to say, and we're willing to restrict ourselves. If this was declined, this proposal, the option would be this, which, you can max out the lot, you can park up against the surrounding neighbors. That doesn't benefit anybody. So it's his desire to build, this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll now open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Want to make sure you're awake.
Can I say one more thing? Am I allowed to say one more thing?
I'm sorry?
Am I allowed to say one more thing? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
We have folders of supplemental material to pass out to you guys. Do I?
Yeah, you can give those to the clerk. Thank you.
What we have in here is a copy of our presentation, as well as a supplemental letter from Andy, the landowner.
In 30 seconds.
Hammer that again.
Once is enough. The following have signed up online. They have all expressed that they are against the proposal. I'm going to read the names. James West, Jenny West, Luke West, Rebecca West, Lisa Billingsley, and Stephen Billingsley. There's one more name, but they didn't give their last name, and you have to have your last name on here to be legitimate. So now we will start with the sign-up sheets. And if you did not express the desire to testify, I'll just read your name and that you either are in favor or opposed. Carol DeWolf is opposed. Todd and Patty Hornby are opposed but do wish to testify. Are you coming up as a group? Come on up.
Oh, goody, I get to be first. First off, I love the look of that. It's a beautiful building. And what I don't get is it doesn't make sense to me that the NC will only allow parking in the back. That doesn't make sense. But what I'm hearing said here tonight is that if it's NC, we're going to get the other option, the larger building, the parking in the back, and it will be a better business decision for him, they've said. But then he won't play nice with nice landscaping and things that help to shield, from the neighbors. But if he gets his way, then he will play nice, is what I'm hearing tonight in these proposals. And so, is it accurate that the parking has to be in the back? And that the building has to be, that has to be situated in that manner under the NC zoning? That would be my question. For us, we moved to Coeur d'Alene 25 years ago, and we moved to this neighborhood. And we moved to the neighborhood because we value what it has to offer, and we feel like we have to fight to try to maintain the character of that neighborhood. We were never notified about this meeting, and we lived very close, and we were the majority of the people who were at the planning center or planning commission meeting were from Best Hills Meadows, and none of us have been approached, to my knowledge, and have had the opportunity to hear about these new plans and everything. But for my wife and I, it's the objection to the gas station. That's the main thing. It's the gas pumps and what that can bring. And if it was just the restaurant, the convenience store, I think Andy's a brilliant businessman. I applaud him for making a living, but there's already a gas station on that corner, and we don't need another gas station there and all that can bring. Thank you.
John Thomas and Ann Wilson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council persons. I actually have changed from what I was going to talk on for a couple of reasons. One, it sounded to me like when I saw the two renderings that I was being threatened. You do this or else you get this. And I don't like that. That's point one. Point two, the C-17 they're talking about, which is to the west of 15, continues on. Those are businesses down there. If you go down Best on the north side of the street, there's a fence company and there's another market down there. Those are businesses. The street, when you go east on Best, number one, it doesn't go through. It's a one street in and out. Best Hill Meadows has 106 homes, and to the best of my knowledge, none of us got a notice of Andy's meeting. None of us. Now, I can't talk for all 106, but I will talk to, and there are people here who live right along Best. There's probably 15 or 20 homes. I could be wrong a little bit. How many? 17, okay. Todd Hornby, who just spoke, he and I decided to get so that people came. Last Saturday, we went and we walked that area of Best. Now, not everybody was home, but we did knock on almost every door. The 5 people we talked to, one of them, who's here tonight and who'll probably talk, knew about what was going on with the lot. The other 4 out of 17 hadn't heard about it. We took 5 or 10 minutes and told them what was going on, and not try to sway, just so they could voice their opinion one way or another. But so everybody didn't know, that, and if nobody came to the meeting, maybe it wasn't that it wasn't publicized that much. So, which is a perfect meeting, you don't get any opposition that way. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up. My last point is, up there, one of your decisions was you could put conditions on the C-17. Why couldn't the condition be no gas pump? That's a nice looking unit. I have no problem with it. Why couldn't one of the conditions be no gas pump? You can have your units, you can park in front, and I suspect you wouldn't have a bit of complaint from anybody here. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Fif- Isn't notification within 300 feet? Isn't that what Idaho law is with regard to that? So not everybody would be notified. It's only with if you're please, sir. I'm just making that as a general clarification. Not everyone would be notified. It's typical for zoning law that only within 300 feet do we notify on these kinds of actions. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Ann Wilson. It's very frustrating.
Be real careful not to bang on
Right,
the
I shouldn't do that.
podium
Thank you. Thank you
because
for reminding me.
it affects the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Best Hill Meadows is a beautiful place. It has extra narrow streets because when they built it, the builder proposed narrow streets and the fire department said, okay, but you have to have sidewalks on one side and then it alternates. It's narrow. When there's plowing done, you can barely get through. Now, the reason I bring that up is because if there's a mini mart or whatever, people drive down. Thankfully, maybe there won't be a tanker loading the gas, but they drive down and they'll say, oh, let's go this way, see if we can get through. It happens all the time. They try to get to Nettleton Gulch. What takes people from, I'm going to buy a bag of chips, oh, let's just dump it here. And there's a school bus stop there. There's just a lot of concerns, safety concerns. And I'm a grandma, so I think of these things. And I just think that, with all our restrictions on parking and all the traffic that will bring, and there will be more traffic. Let's think about it. You go in a gas station, I can't get out here, I'll try this driveway. And I don't know what he has planned for driveways, and I'm sure it's a beautiful facility, but the gas is just a really bad idea in my book. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Carlton?
Okay, so I live in Best Hill Meadows too. That intersection I have to drive through to get out if I go anywhere. There's going to be increased traffic. I don't understand how planners can sit here and say that there isn't. There's been talk about a community need. We're 5 minutes from Costco if you want gas or you want food. So I don't see that. The intersection can get very busy as it is now, and I don't think that, I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm against the zoning change.
Thank you. If you do choose to come to the podium, please, even though I call your name, I would appreciate it if you would express your name again, partly because sometimes I don't pronounce it correctly. Brenda Carlton is opposed but does not wish to speak. Tom, is it Hoggerford? Is opposed and does not wish to speak. Jacob Noble Mallon is in favor but does not wish to speak. Now, I think that's McLeod. Brenda Dirks is in favor and does not wish to speak. Okay. Think you can figure that next one out?
Which one, this one? No.
Maybe you read the address, 2519.
Yes, let's just do that. The person who lives at 2519 and 2515 North 15th is opposed and does not wish to speak. Devin,
Excuse me?
please print clearly your your legal name. It's
I think she wants to speak.
I think she's coming.
Yeah, I think she wants to speak, Mayor.
Now,
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Jerry Schoenhard.
I own the two lots on the corner of 15th and Best, 2519 and 2515. I've been there for over 60 years. It's been a nice place. Everything from 15th Street east is housing. It's families living there. The only real business right there on 15th would be Nom Nom on the corner of 15th and Best, and a Vista down a mile south and the fire station. Going north, there's a school. The rest on 15th Street and everything east is family. Now, do we need another gas station? Yes, he's now talking about putting more things in. But there's still going to be a lot of lights. And if you lived on that corner, you'd know how much traffic 15th Street is getting these days. A whole lot. Okay. And you know, something that really bothers me is these people talked about how they wanted to do things to make the people proud of what they were doing. So they sent invitations around to people. They stuck them on the mats of our doors, by our door, and it said it was going to be at 6 o'clock at the Best Western on Tuesday, May 7th. And they were going to talk about the amenities and what we would like and what they were going to do and so on. So at 6 o'clock, or really earlier than that, we went up there. We were there about 5 minutes to 6. Nobody's going to go earlier than that to go to a meeting like that. And when we got there at the Best Western, they said they have a reader board up there, what they're going to have on their places. And when we went down there, there was nothing. The room was perfectly cleared. So I went back and said, what happened? There's supposed to be a meeting at 6 o'clock. So he took me to the reader board and he said, no, that meeting was from 4 to 6. And I think anybody that wants to impress somebody with what they're doing, and then they're not there when they sent invitations and they're not there, there's something wrong with that picture. It doesn't prove to me that they want to really do anything for us.
Thank you.
Okay, my time is up, I guess. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Devin at 3938 West Lenox is in favor, but does not express the desire to testify. Jeff Jager wishes to testify.
The gentleman that had the slides up here, could I ask if we have a particular slide shown? Yeah, it was the picture, the slide, the sky view looking down with the lake on it. Just one moment.
Wow, we have passwords now.
There was the slide with the lake on it, the sky direct looking down. Next slide. Oh, sorry.
That's it, yeah.
No, it's actually a picture of the lake. It had the lake in the back.
From the city's.
Bird's eye view.
It's probably yours, the bird's eye view.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of your pictures.
There's this one.
Yep, perfect. That'll work. Good evening. I'm Jeff Jagger. I live on Best Avenue, 2146 East Best, and I am a member of the HOA there. We've got about 21 homes on Best Avenue that go east from the property in question that are on the property. 17 of those are in the HOA, which is the Best Hills Ranch HOA. We're right next to the other HOA you've heard from other folks. I'm also happen to be the HOA's lake and wildland manager. So I manage the lake that's being shown right there, just about 3 properties away from this. Now, my concern is I haven't heard anything about an environmental impact study whatsoever. Now, this property is very special, and the reason why, excuse me, is that the city of Coeur d'Alene is basically situated on a giant sand pit, and that's why we don't have a lot of little lakes, small lakes or ponds. They just don't exist because the groundwater just drains. This is a very unique property because we have this lake right there, and that lake brings in a lot of wildlife. 2 nights ago, I was sitting in my backyard and elk ran by us. We have elk, we have deer, turkeys, occasionally see black bear, you name it, mountain lions, wolves, the whole deal. I haven't heard anything about an environmental impact study. The noise and the light pollution from anything that's developed here will impact that. And I understand that something's going to go in there, but I would like you, the council, to make sure that those considerations are made so that we're not going to have that negatively impacting the wildlife, because that's going to impact my property value. When I bought my property and my 17 other homeowners in my HOA, when we bought it, we knew that that property was NC, so we wouldn't get a large business in there. If you approve this, that's kind of giving Andy the right to say, put in there whatever he wants. Now, I absolutely and sincerely applaud Andy for working with the community and trying to build what's best for everyone. I really do. But that's my concern, is the light and the noise for both the wildlife and affecting our property values from that light being shined into our homes. Honestly, I look at this as that his property value is going to go up if this is approved, and my property value is going to go down. It's going to be taking money right out of my pocket and put it right into his. Any questions? My quick comment is that I ask for before you make a decision that would allow any sort of further building or real development on this property, that we postpone and we look for an environmental impact study for those purposes. Sound good? Thank you.
Joe, ARCH.
All right, well, most of it's been said. I'm the
Can you express your name?
Joe Archambault. I'm president of the HOA in Best Hills, where he was talking. I attended the planning board meeting, and they served our community right. They saw fit that it would be good to leave it as it is and not put a gas station in there. He decides to make some changes. It's like a kid running to his mother saying, I want an ice cream, and the mother says no. Then all of a sudden they run to dad. You guys are the dad. Are you going to give him the ice cream? If he leaves it as an NC, if you leave it as it is, as an NC, I don't think anybody will be upset about what's built there. I don't understand, like Mr. Gookin said, why it has to be that particular height. You know, and somebody asked a question about the restriction of the parking. Do we know the answer to that? Does it have to be in the back, facing the homes that are behind it? Is there an answer to that? All those things, but if he can build that beautiful looking thing, he can do it without a gas station. It's just that simple. And for whatever meeting he had, we wouldn't have been involved because we were too far away. But at the last meeting, he offered us $100 if we wouldn't complain. I sat through that meeting.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
You want to play the tape back? That's exactly what he said. So what do we take? $100 and we can go to his little store? So anyway, I suggest you leave it as it is, NC. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Ambrose is in favor, but doesn't wish to speak. Jeremy Ambrose is in favor. Looks like D.L. Mesbah is neutral.
May I speak?
Pardon?
I didn't know if I wanted to speak, but I would like to.
Okay. Please state your name.
Neutral, wow. I'm Al Mesbah, and I have been a resident, about a block away from the property for a while. We bought that property in mid-'80s. I'm neutral, as I've stated, but I've listened to everybody, and it seems to me that the issues that are brought up is traffic, is environmental. I agree with that, by the way. I'm very, very worried about that, so I think a study should be done. But as far as traffic goes, as everybody has mentioned, most of what's on 15th is residential. So people that drive on 15th are either visiting somebody on 15th or they live somewhere on 15th. So anybody that would stop at this gas station, if it was a gas station, it wouldn't really change the traffic. I assume that's why the city street people have also said that. Because, you don't go to 15th Street to go to a gas station. You just don't. You go to Costco if you wanted to do that, right? You go there because it's your local store and you're on the way home and you're dropping by to get something and go home. That's really it. So the alternative would be if they continued those high-density housings, that are just south of the property. And if they did that, then your traffic would increase because now you have additional residences on that street. If you bring other small businesses, as in a strip mall, then also, again, you are probably going to get increased traffic because now people are going to want to go to that particular store and they will come from other neighborhoods. So really, again, I couldn't care less if that becomes a soccer field, as far as I'm concerned, but, or a park or whatever. But I don't think traffic is really one of the issues. Now, on that particular intersection, will it cause people coming in and going out? Yes, absolutely. But that's going to happen no matter what is developed there. So I don't really, I think the problem is that communication was not done, and I'm sorry about that because our neighborhood group is just north of all the HOAs that are there, and we are not an HOA. We are just a really close neighborhood, and we communicate with each other really well, and we've had support from both of the HOAs, and so we are friends in that whole neighborhood. We are all friends. But, it's important, I think, to have communication, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to facilitate that. Really, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Steve Ridenhour, he is in favor. Rex Anders is in favor.
That's the architect. That's the architect.
Yes, I just realized that. Thanks, Rex. John West is opposed. Patricia May is opposed. Jim Myers is opposed, does wish to speak. Jim Myers.
My name is Jim Myers. I live approximately a quarter mile from the area in question. As part of my exercise program, I walk this whole area. It's fun to watch the gas tankers pulling trailers, the 18-wheelers that are delivering food and ice to Nom Nom. Watching them jockey in and out of that parking lot is too much fun. We're going to have exactly the same problem here. They're going to come up 15th from 90, turn in, drop off. They can't back out. They've got to go to Best and make that left to get to the light. That will block Best. It will cause problems. I'm against this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Andy Singh, did you wish to testify at this point?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm just gonna say like a little speech, and then at the end, I'm gonna go over everyone's comments. I want to listen to all the comments, and then I will respond to those.
If you want to do that, why don't you wait till the end of the testimony, and then you can share your rebuttals.
Will I be able to do both? I would like to give a speech.
Yes, at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Marcia Pina is opposed. Kathy Molling is opposed and does wish to speak.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Mailing, and I'm a resident of Best Hill Meadows and lived approximately a little over a quarter mile away. So obviously I was not included on the presentation that was offered by Andy. My primary objections to this proposal are twofold. One is any change to rezoning should meet the needs and wants of a community. And I think as everyone has illustrated here, and my strong belief is, we have plenty of options right now for both fueling and for markets, all the way from just across the street from Nom Nom, and then all the way through Best and Appleway there's Best Food Stop, I believe it's called, which is less than a quarter mile away. There's gas and market options on the corner of 4th and Best as well. You can travel north on 15th, Dalton and 15th offer both fueling and a market. You've got Costco, as many have alluded to, that offer fueling, food court services, and full food services. So I believe from the needs of from a community perspective, there is no need for an additional gas station. And as also alluded to, what comes along with that is all the additional traffic with the big tankers and delivery trucks coming in, as well as the odor that goes along with them when they are filling the fuel tanks, which can be very strong. I mean, I can smell it as I pass through the intersection on the opposite side from our neighborhood. And I do believe, because we do see people who get lost trying to get to Nettleton, who come down Best Avenue, weave through the neighborhood, sometimes going pretty fast because they don't realize there is no outlet and they have to turn around and come back up Best, traveling west to get back to their destination. So again, as people are going to be turning out of that location, there will be additional traffic that proceeds east down Best into our neighborhood with that same issue of no outlet, and they'll have to come back around through the neighborhood and turn around to get back out. So any change in rezoning should be based on what the community needs and wants, and I don't believe from what has been proposed for the change in zoning that has been illustrated as a need that anybody desires in our local community, which is predominantly residential and densely populated with not a lot of that surrounding area where there's even growth opportunity from a residential perspective. It's already pretty saturated. So from that perspective, I disapprove any change in zoning and no fuel tanker. If they can put in some kind of a retail shop there that meets our needs, does not go create parking issues with parking in the rear of the building for those duplexes that reside right along that property, and create both a noise, an odor issue from the standpoint of people turning their cars on and off, and the additional lighting, and not having a building that goes up to 30 feet, which I don't understand why you can have two different zonings where there is no option for providing a parking situation that meets the needs of the community without impacting the residents. And I just kind of feel like it's a bait and switch at this point because we weren't aware that it was going to be proposed as an alternative. Would like to hear more about that, I think, but we would definitely be more supportive of a zoning, no change to the zoning and definitely no gas station in that area. And then again, from an environmental impact, as Jeff Jager has presented, I think it's very important. There is a lot of wildlife in there. There's also a lot of walking traffic. I know we have to slow down many times going down Best because of deer, turkeys crossing the road, and if you get more traffic going that way at higher speeds, which we do see more of, when people get lost going through there when they think they're going to be able to get out onto Nettleton, which they can't. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
James Gerardo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. You have my last name correct. I'm a poster. I live in Best Hill Meadows, and my number one concern is I have no objection to everything that was seen in terms of a restaurant or a market. That doesn't bother me. It's the gas station that's the issue. I've purchased my gas at Costco for the last 4+ years. I don't intend to go anywhere else except Costco. The other issue that I really have is we have a planning department, and as you stated, it was voted 7-0 to deny it. Why do we have a planning department? That's their job, and to me, your job as a city council, you want to take their recommendations. And when I was at the planning commission, the number one thing I noticed is they made comments that the amount of people in our neighborhood that came to this meeting was overwhelming. They'd never seen a neighborhood respond that big. And the other issue is, as it's already been mentioned, there are a lot of businesses on Best as you head west, but 15th is the dividing line. You don't have the businesses and all the commercial east of 15th. You have homes. I don't have a problem with the neighborhood commercial. That makes sense. But putting a gas station there, I just don't agree with it, and I don't feel we need it. I'm certainly not going to use it. And I would just recommend, the Planning Commission said no. I would expect you to take their recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dick Dion is opposed. Tanya Hebner is in favor and does wish to speak.
Yes, I'm Tanya Hebner, and I'm going to give my point of view. I can see the Celtice and Atlas location from my backyard. And when we bought the home just under 2 years ago, the fact that that location was there was one of our pros. It was not one of our cons. We were actually driving from Post Falls to that gas station, and we were always getting our gas at Costco, my parents and my husband and I. And we chose to get our gas at that gas station instead. I was commuting back and forth from Spokane for work every day. I got better gas mileage, so I chose that gas instead. My car ran better. So when we moved there, I was grateful. I didn't have to go as far. Also, my dad's older. He struggles at the pump, and they always help him. I don't have to worry that he's going to go and not be able to get his gas. So these are things that I find beneficial, and I hear people, having issues about that. Also, there's a lot of options, but to be honest with you, this location that I go to, it's very clean. It feels very safe. They carry all the staple foods. I take care of 2 elderly parents, a disabled husband, and a high-needs daughter that's 8. I have older children as well that drive and are on their own. I feel safe with my kids, my older daughters, 18 and 23, 27, going there, that if they needed help or they needed anything, I know they'd get. I don't worry. Some of the other gas stations, I'm a little worried about, As far as me needing something, which happens. I manage a lot of things. I go to the store and forget what I went for and come back and I'm like, oh no, I can run down there and normally they have it. And I can only be gone for 5 minutes and get back to what I have to do at home. because I'm busy. So for me, that gas station is a godsend. So I don't smell any gas. I don't notice that there's higher traffic. Honestly, I now am employed by them as of February. So I was a customer, and then when I needed to be closer to home and not commuting to Spokane, I actually went in and applied and luckily got a job there. And it's been also a godsend because I'm able to leave if I need to, if my daughter needs me or my husband needs me, and that kind of thing. And I see how much pride they take in their business. And I see, they keep it clean and they keep it nice. And that has kind of gone away from a lot of the gas stations. But it's not really a gas station, it's a local market. And they carry a lot. So I just want to say, I don't think it's quite what people think it is. And the gas is a benefit to have it close by.
Thank you. Jay Yanacito is in favor.
Good evening, Mayor Hammond, council members. My name is Jay Anacito. I think the most significant thing I want to point out is that I was initially against this. I did 3 pages of research on the number of gas stations in the neighborhood, and somebody with a business degree, I said, this isn't going to work. We didn't get notified because we didn't live within 300 feet, but I live probably closest to the 2 HOAs that were just mentioned. There's Best Hills Meadows and Best Hills Ranch. I live in Best Hills Ranch, 1854 Best Avenue. When I met Mr. Singh, Andy, I saw this presentation and I was impressed with it. I think his plans of what he wants to build, not this, are truly in the best interest of the community. NC, which is neighborhood commercial, is this. It is the store on the street and the parking in the back. In the back are our homes. The lighting, the environmental impact studies that my colleagues have talked about, my neighbors have talked about, are on our sides of where the parking lot's going to be, which you see right here to the east. C-17 will allow him to build what he wants to build. Everyone has got their arms wrapped around gas station. That's what got me all spun up. I look at this as a Best Hills market with fuel pumps. That is going to allow him to offset some costs. We all know what gas costs. No one's immune to that. I think C-17 with restrictions, which I believe the council, the zoning committee, and the city planners can hold him to. I agree with the other picture, the drawings. It looks good. It's got the building back to the neighborhood. The lights will be in the front, masked by landscaping. There were comments made about this was no benefit to the neighborhood. We don't have a decent eatery in the neighborhood. We don't have a place in the neighborhood other than Nom Nom, which sells devices. You go there for gas, you go there for lottery tickets, you go there for cigarettes. Okay, there's not really any food in there worth eating. I don't see any of you there on a regular basis. I don't go on a regular basis. The people behind me, most of them go there for ice. I've asked them about it, okay? That's about it. The one thing that this does bring to the neighborhood, and I've heard a number of people already speak, is they can go anywhere they want to get everything that Andy's going to offer. The difference is walking. There is nothing we can walk to in our neighborhood. What Andy is proposing is something we can walk to. We can walk up and get a sandwich. We can walk up and get whatever we need. I have been to his place on Celtice and Atlas. I think that's what people are afraid of, is he's going to build something to that size. But if we can hold him, can we go to the picture of the proposed? If he builds, if we can hold him to what he is proposing, I think this will be a benefit to our neighborhood. Fear of the unknown, it grips everyone. Vaccinations, masks. I've heard people talk about everything from fuel tankers to what this is going to be like in 30 years. I think we have to look at the present. The man owns the land. This is what he wants to do. I think it's a benefit to our neighborhood. Overall, I think the code change will be a benefit to our community. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Kimberly Ambrose is in favor. Karen Tantano. That's close. Is in favor. Pascal.
Pasquale, Mastantuono.
Pardon?
Pasquale.
Pasquale is in favor. Steve on 2515 or 2511 North 16th is opposed and does wish to speak.
Yes, sir. Steve Listman,
Please express your full name.
Stephen Listman, Listman, just like it sounds. I am the lucky one who is having this built in my backyard. There's duplex in my house. I bought that house 34 years ago. There was a stop sign for us to cross at 15th because Best Avenue ended at 16th in my street. Best Hills Meadows, the retirement place, the apartments, latitude 20 or 40, whatever it is, weren't there. I came to the planning meeting and I had concerns about light pollution. And I noticed that he says here that lights will go off at 10 o'clock. Okay, I worked at the jail. I was a facility mechanic there for 17 years. And when we moved the RV dump to where it is now, from where the sheriff's department parks their cars, the neighbors there were told that those RV dump lights would go off at 10 o'clock. They do not. They do not go off. So that's another thing that I'm concerned about. And a fence. What kind of fence are we going to put along there? I would like something tall enough where I don't have to see those buildings. Height limit of 20 feet, I could go with that. That sounds pretty good with me. But the gas station, no, because of odors and fuel trucks coming in. You ought to see the traffic there. Now, if a fuel truck exited or went in that way.
Sir, can you face this way,
I'm sorry.
please? So that
I'm sorry. If you look at the entrance and exit design, since they built latitude 40, those apartments south of me, in rush hour, you ought to see the traffic. It backs up all the way past Best Avenue where people turning into those new apartments. Now you're going to want to have, you'll have to widen 15th Street substantially, put in a left turn lanes, and that. And another thing I'm concerned about, not just the odors from the fuel. At the planning commission meeting, he mentioned a coffee shop. Okay, I enjoy a cup of coffee in the morning like most people do, but I do not want to be smelling coffee brewing all day long when I go into my backyard. If I want to do that, I'll go sit out in front of Starbucks or something, you know. The traffic part, we covered. Okay, the slope. There's a 5-foot declination and slope toward my yard. When they built those apartments, latitude 40 south of me, they said built to grade. Well, you know what? They raised that grade up 2.5 feet. And they put in a 6-foot high fence, vinyl fence along there. I can go in my backyard and I can look right into their dining rooms and living rooms. So if they do this on grade, they're going to be raising it up 5 feet. And I guess that's about all I have, because I don't want all this water running into my yard, and I don't want to smell coffee. I don't want to smell a restaurant. I like going outside my yard and smelling the pine trees that I have, you know, and the cut grass. But I'm not one of your constituents. Mr. English, I've known him since I worked at the courthouse as facility maintenance before transferring up to the jail in '97. I've been in Dan's office many times when he worked there in the old courthouse. Thank you for your time. Please make sure whatever you approve, I was told there's going to be a store put in there, whatever. Height limit, light pollution, and try to keep the odors down, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think this is JASDEEP. Is in favor. Is that KAUR? Coeur, okay. Mandeep Sahoda is in favor. Amandeep Walia is in favor. Dominique Lapusa is in favor. Rex Gocher is opposed and does wish to speak.
My name is Rex Gocher, 2505 North 15th. I'm right across the street from the proposed, I like this picture here, across, I think it was in January where I got a letter at the home base sending emails and comment in. My main thing was, well, I didn't think it fit the neighborhood and everything else, and gas station and everything else, and I stressed the point of the traffic. And I've had this house for 8 years, and the traffic is like quadrupled more than it did. I mean, it's the main arterial now. 15th Street, we might get to Hayden fast route, not fast, but just no traffic. Now it's the main bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's one thing. And at least in this draw, you see they moved this, because I thought if they had like the gas station that's over there now existing, driveways that close to the intersection, we'd have some major wrecks, because I've seen them happen at that gas station. I've seen people exit that gas station, want to go back south on 15th, and so they're coming out there only one car length from 15th. And I've seen a guy making a left off 15th on the best, and it just about smack, because somebody leaves the gas station to get and go that way. You'll go southbound, so it's a mess, but listen to the other testifiers here and stuff, and especially the gentleman that lives right behind it, because my main thing looking across the street, my wife says, well, gee, there's traffic and stuff and all this stuff, and I said, well, I feel sorry for the people behind there, because like you said, the grade slopes down to his place to that lake, and I used to be in the business here many years ago. We were doing the earthwork, the excavating. We put in the swales and the dry wells for drainage, because you're supposed to contain everything that Mother Nature puts there has got to stay on that lot. With all this pavement, now it's supposed to drain on our streets. So they have to have that lot sloped where it feeds. I'm assuming this green belt between the duplexes or those houses and the store will have the swale and the dry wells there, and you have the trees and stuff, because they're not supposed to. And then I noticed that driveway pointing across 15th, they have to have that grading to their dry wells, unless they have one in the corner there, but not draining into 15th. The city storm drain, there's one at the corner of my place, 15th and Randall, and they're always coming out there cleaning out, so we can't have anything from that development, no matter what it be, going to the streets. That's the code. And the other thing I was thinking is, give this up, is like noise. If they have the refrigeration units and stuff, I don't see a thing where they have delivery trucks must be coming to the front door to this business. They don't have an alleyway in the back, which I would be against, because you have the trucks idling there, the diesel smell, and their refrigeration and stuff. And also if they have the restaurant or the cooking, the vent fans, and I don't smell fried chicken either and that stuff. So, and the one thing I want to bring up, which we have a problem with back in Hawaii, with the zoning changes and stuff, someone come in, beautiful pictures, we're going to build this neat thing, you give us a zoning change. And right away, all of a sudden, something's come up, our investment somewhere went south, we're not going to build, we're going to flip the property to somebody else. They got the zoning, did all the work, hired engineers, architects, everybody come in and be their gang to get the council to go that way, and then the guy uses to up the value of the property, because now it's got a more favorable zoning, and they flip it. It's going on for 45 years, and it's a big thing there, because all these big developments that have gone in the big island of Hawaii, they never paid any of these other fees they were supposed to pay in lieu of and all this stuff, and they just do it. One developer flips it to another. So that's what I'd like to see. If they get approved to build, they're made to build, not allowed. If they say, oh, well, we're going to change it and we're going to sell it to Joe Q, that the zoning reverts back and it's not C-17 no longer. Don't use, be used to be a marketing tool. Thank you.
Thank you. Taylor Stevens is in favor. Jacob Poole is in favor. And lastly, Casey Reese is in favor and does wish to speak.
Mr. Mayor, council members, esteemed. I'm with an AI Black. I'm a local commercial real estate broker, and I'm here on behalf of Andy and his family. I actually have my house is 3639 Hillcrest Circle. We're renting it out right now, but it's just up the road from their Atlas and Celtice store, and we love it. We could walk down there with the kids. It was fantastic. But I've been handling the leasing efforts for the two options as far as if they're able to get the zone change and be able to do gas with their local market, and if they're not. And to date, we have had middling success with that. I think various economic factors from office to retail, it's a harder time right now for any of those types of people to be paying any types of rents to build new construction. And so it is a possibility that if we couldn't get the zone change that he'd have to sell. And I know Andy's a friend, and I just think, I don't live in the neighborhood, I live up the road, but I would use it. And I think with your master development agreements that you can put against the property to hold him to the things he's saying. Yeah, it's busy up here. We came up 30 years ago. I grew up here. I grew up on the Rimrock. It's gotten a lot different, for sure. 15th has become an arterial, one of the major ones, north-south. And people are coming, a lot of traffic. But this is already zoned for neighborhood commercial. If he were to sell it to somebody, they're surely going to develop it. And so I think he's presenting the best use that can be controlled to the benefit of the neighborhood, because he's willing to work with us, So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the.
Oh, you've got.
I didn't sign up. Is it possible to say two things?
You have to sign up. If you want to sign up afterwards, you can visit with the clerk. You want to come forward, please? You can sign up afterwards.
No, but you can speak.
So very quickly, my name's Amy Bartu. I live at 2028
Amy, you
East.
got to face this way, please.
East Best Avenue. If we could pull up that other picture with the lake. Before we do that, if this were approved, the gas station, do you see how the exit here on Best Avenue, is there any way, before you leave this, is there any way then to maybe have an in and an out going on 15th rather than on Best? And then that applies to the picture that I want to show next of the lake, please. A couple things that have not been mentioned, and I've lived in Coeur d'Alene since 1965 and grew up with Kiki Miller riding bicycles up and down 15th Street. And one thing you should all know is that this has always been a floodplain. Back in the day, there would be 2 feet of water on 15th Street, right in front of Latitude 40. And all this green space behind Latitude 40 in the spring is marsh. You can walk near the hillside and you'll sink 6 inches into the water. So that's really concerning. However, I'm fairly neutral because I really do appreciate what Mr. Singh is trying to do by including people. I didn't know about his prior meeting, but a group of us who learned about this just on Monday, or Sunday rather, got together, and Andy made quick changes in his plans to meet with us, which I really appreciated. He answered a lot of questions. I feel that he's trying to do the best he can and still be able to make a good profit, and that probably includes the gas. I wish NC would allow for the elimination of the parking in the back. But I just wanted to point that out. And the last thing, we have had truckers, irrespective of what they're in town for, drive down Best Avenue, get to the east end, and have nowhere to go. And it's taken hours for them to try to back into the person's property driveway and get turned around because they get lost. I can only imagine what it's like for the poor Best Avenue or Best Hill Meadows folks. So please do keep that in mind when you're thinking about the gas component. It's too bad Andy can't make the amount of money he would like to make by putting that really cool thing that he wants to do and put a bakery and some things that we really could use and need without the gas. Thank you for your time.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Okay, that ends the public testimony. Andy, we're going to give you a chance to do a rebuttal, but we're going to take a break here. Some of us need to go. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and I'd ask the crowd not to beat us to the restroom because we only have a short time.
That stuff's too.
We'll call this meeting back to order, and at this point, Andy, it is, you have the floor.
First and foremost, I want to thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your service to this country. We're very grateful. Thank you, Council, for everything you guys do, the responsibility you guys undertake. You guys volunteer your time to listen to us. And sorry, I get nervous. But City Hall, everyone's amazing, kind. We're very lucky to have them. Mike, Hillary, Tracy at Planning and Zoning, they've helped me so much. I'm forever indebted to them. My name is Andy Singh. I've lived in Coeur d'Alene since I was 12 years old. I love this community. This is where I grew up. We have stores. We have 3 stores in the area. We have 2 on Northwest, and we just built the one on Atlas. I'm the luckiest person alive. I work at our stores, and people that I went to middle school with, high school with, I still see them to this day. It doesn't feel like a job for me. I'm truly blessed. We own 15th and Best. We bought this property a year ago. We bought it under NC zoning. We're 100% aware. We've never ventured into doing a strip mall, type of concept. We've never done that, but we're open to the idea. And that was where we looked at NC. We said, hey, if we don't get a gas station, we can do this strip mall idea. So we went to Planning and Zoning for the zone change. We go to the zone change, and greatest thing in the world is that we failed at Planning and Zoning. We didn't know what the community wanted. We didn't know anything. It would have been what I wanted, and I would have been wrong. When we went to Planning and Zoning, we heard all these comments, lighting, traffic, we don't want all this stuff. We heard all these complaints. Without those complaints, we wouldn't have this rendering. So when we did this rendering, every part of this rendering is NC. As far as buffers go, trees go, parking goes, height, we're actually lower than what even NC allows. We want to do this because it's feasible. It costs less money to do this. If we do the strip mall, it costs us twice as much money. And we're not passionate about strip malls. I don't know who can be, but I grew up in this business. I sweep the floors every night. I leaf blow. I don't know if there's anyone that drives by Northwest Boulevard. They've probably seen me leaf blow the parking lots before. I'm truly passionate about our business. I try to be better than everybody. We treat our employees with class, dignity, and respect. We pay them. I think if you stay at our store for a year, you make $20 an hour. And there's people that make up to $25 an hour. There's other local businesses. You can go to Super One, Fred Meyer. They start at 15. and they go even lower than that. We want people to have quality of life. We respect, even if somebody calls in sick, I'm the one covering shifts. So my employees know who I am. People that know me know who I am. I'm sorry for the neighbors in the rear on Best. They don't know who I am. Every opportunity my family has had, we bought a store on Northwest Boulevard by the courthouse. It was like 200 square feet. We remodeled that twice. It was shut down when we bought it. There was a fence around it. We made that property better. We made that area better because we cared about our property. We bought, later on, our store by Riverstone. It was a Texaco when we bought it. Old pumps. The guy that owned it would drink behind the counter. You know, like when we bought it, we fixed it up. We seal coat our parking lots every summer. We paint our curbs. We paint our poles. We do everything nobody else does. These people don't know this. I'm here. Every community we've been in, people over time, we've earned their respect. I don't expect to be given respect by anybody. We will 100, 200% earn that. When we build Atlas and Celtice, if you look at a Maverick, it costs about $1 million to build a Maverick. Cookie cutter, they all look the same, right? They sell the same stuff no matter what neighborhood they're in. When we built a store on Atlas and Celtice, Maverick cost $1 million. We spent $2 million because there's no grocery store in the area. We did the community a service. They don't have to drive into town. Everyone here complains about traffic in Coeur d'Alene. We're trying to do something about it. If we have this store here, okay, I agree with everyone here. If I could do this without gas, I would. But I can't pay the bills without gas. We need gas to pay our employees better. If you expect me to have a market without fuel, without the profit we're making from fuel, I have to pay $13, $12, $14 an hour too. Everything we're doing has no benefit to us. No one believes me, but that is how I feel. We did this based off the complaints that we got at planning and zoning. We messed up. It was my first time at planning and zoning. I've never done this before. We probably made every mistake in the book. We didn't have a rendering. I wasn't confident when I spoke. I didn't believe what I was saying. I didn't know what to say. But I've had the last 6 months to contemplate every single idea. Rex would tell me, I would tell Rex, hey, let's do this because it's better for the community. I would say, hey, you did trees that are probably 8 feet in the back, but I know NC calls for 15-foot trees. If we went to C17, I would still do 15-foot trees. Everyone here that's complaining, I'm thankful for that. Without the complaints, we can't put our best step forward. I don't expect to have their respect today, but over time, I'll bet my life on it. I will earn their respect. That store will be the cleanest store in the area. The gas pumps will be the cleanest gas pumps in town. You can go to our Atlas store. There's not even dust on our pumps. We are Coeur d'Alene. And if you guys shoot me down today, like you're shooting down somebody that grew up here, that is in the community, that is doing all the right things. I went to every house around this property myself, and all the houses in the rear, all the houses in the front, and even more houses in the front, like to the side. But I left a meeting reminder for everyone. I got petition forms, people to sign them. They're in the folder that Rex gave you guys earlier. People that couldn't make it to the meeting today, I wasn't soliciting my customers for signatures. It's people that I've known for years that have done business with us. And I would like to earn everyone's respect in this room. I'm a Coeur d'Alene local. I want equality. There's a gas station across the street, and it's the land use, the future land use is retail corridor. We're in the same corridor. this is how I feel. I think I'm the only person that's gonna put my best step forward here. No, if anyone owned this lot, it's not gonna look good. And if we have to go to the NC option, I'm not trying to threaten anybody. It's what we signed up for when we bought this. But this costs me half as much money, and it's feasible. I wanna do the right thing, gas tanks. If you have to pass an environmental report to even put gas tanks in the ground, they do a soils test. If we don't get it, then we can't do it. But if it's allowed, then we can do it. We'll do it right. You have my word. I have this speech, but I didn't read any of it. This is coming from my heart. This is what I truly believe. I don't have the respect today. I will earn it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll close the public hearing. Oh, did you wish?
You want it to be part of the rebuttal?
Okay.
Rex did, I apologize.
Oh. Well, okay then. I won't close the public hearing yet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just to reiterate some of the items that were brought up, first and foremost, thank you to everybody that came and weighed in. Like I said, it is our intention to be responsive to everybody here. Exercising your rights as neighbors is something that it's everybody's right to, and so I thank you for everyone that came here tonight. I guess what I would want to emphasize with some of the comments that were made today is, like Andy said, with regard to the environmental report, that's a requirement for fuel. Additionally, with regard to stormwater, it's part of the building code that stormwater needs to stay on site and be treated. So most certainly, stormwater would not be leaving the site based on any design that was put forward. I also want to point out that when we went down this path, our whole framework was based on the comprehensive plan and what that framework would allow. And so, there were a couple options here that we could have chosen in order to do this per the code. There is the C17 option. There was also the CC option, and this was the method that most aligned with the comprehensive plan. And that comprehensive plan was put together, incorporating 1,000 people in the community, 11,000 data points, and the planners, the planning department here have been awesome to work with, just as Andy pointed out. And so the proactive approach that they have taken with us to try and help shepherd us through this process has been very much appreciated. The last two items that I wanted to quickly mention, having worked in this profession for 22 years, two of the biggest project killers or project limiters, if you will, are traffic. The traffic engineers that are employed by jurisdictions, they see, it's not just the zoomed in, intersection. They see the entire tapestry and they know the numbers. They're counting cars and all the trips and things like that. So I would just want to reiterate their input into this, their response to the staff report in stating that they didn't see any objection with this. Additionally, fire, from my mind, is the most restrictive agency that weighs in on these endorsements, and they had no objection to this. And I guess lastly is to just echo what Andy said with regard to the way that he runs these stores. I've worked with him for the last 5 years. Walking through the Northwest Boulevard store and now the Atlas store, nobody runs a tighter operation than he does and puts as much passion into the way that he runs his business. So, thank you.
Does council have any questions?
A question for Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, you want to come up and take another question or two?
Sure, yes.
Mike, a couple of questions. Is there a development agreement already?
There is not.
The other question is, just curious, how did this parcel become NC-17?
It was when it was annexed in 2011. That's when the annexation. That's when the zoning was assigned to it.
And we don't know why, because it seems like a really peculiar. I mean, normally we do it like was mentioned in Rex's presentation, it's when, there's a house, like London's Violin, that's the one we did
That's
a
correct.
while back, and we also did there's an old school building that we did that was a yoga studio, and we made that NC-17, I love saying that, NC. And, but why would you annex in something at NC unless there was some kind of reason behind it? We don't know, I guess.
I don't have that information in front of me now. I'd have to pull that case and look at it.
But the comprehensive plan does mention that this is a mixed use.
It's mixed use low, that's correct.
Mixed use low, yeah. Thank you.
Dan?
Well, could you clarify if something is NC like that, does the parking really have to be in the back? I mean, it does sound crazy, I agree with.
Sure, yeah, I could
people.
just.
And what would it take for us to, no, we can't change it as part of this.
Yeah, the development standard for the NC says surface parking should be located to the rear or to the side of the principal building, and that is in the NC code. So if an applicant came forward with parking in the rear, it would be approved, the plan would be approved. But after hearing, if the applicant came forward with parking in the rear, after hearing today's testimony, staff would be supportive of that, but, because it's a should and not a shall, this parking.
Oh, okay. Should or shall.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I want to follow up on that. So does it need
Dan?
to be in the rear? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's intended to have the buildings front-loaded along the sidewalk for pedestrian and walkable communities, and the parking is supposed to be located in the rear.
So you're going to tell them that they can't do that, for example?
We cannot, because if he showed parking in the rear, that's allowed use, not only him or any applicant that buys this property. If they wanted to put parking in the rear, they can do that by right in the NC zoning district.
But they can't put parking in the front?
If they wanted to show it, staff would be supportive of it. We would look at it favorably since the comments we've heard today about it. But it's not a requirement. We could not make an applicant put the parking in the front.
But they can.
They can, they could.
They can, they could.
Should.
Okay, 'cause
Yes.
I think if it was just saying in the rear, that's dumb.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Vicky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, maybe you can clarify these two. It looks to me like most of the objections that came out of the planning zoning meeting have been addressed in the new plan, and they're tied to a development agreement. The development agreement stays with the developer, not the property. Is that correct?
I'd refer that to Randy.
No, the development agreement would run with the land.
So what I'm trying to get at is the two separate things, in that it could not be flippable and have, let's say we approved a C-17, but the C-17 had conditional zoning and within that development agreement, or just conditional zoning requirements that we added to it, then that stays with the land.
That's correct. The
So even
conditional
if-
zoning would stay with the land.
Right, so if
Any
Mr. Singh
conditions you put on
sold
it.
the C-17, they could only do what we put on it as a condition.
And and if it's sold, those conditions go with it.
Okay, so the development agreement is separate or the same thing as the conditional zoning requirements?
Conditional zoning would be in the development agreement.
Okay, so there can be more in the development agreement than the conditional zoning?
Yes, your ordinance sets out a lot of issues that can be resolved in the development agreement.
Okay.
Including
Okay.
uses.
I'm just trying to assure we're clear that it can't be we got our zoning, now we're just going to one-up it and keep flipping.
That's
to
correct.
To the thing. And then in the NC zoning, you listed, the staff report listed some things that were allowable, but it's not all things. So I'm wondering if things like coffee stands, the barn drive-throughs, those types of things, are those,
I think that was the full list.
that was the full list?
That was the full list on that slide.
So the staff report items are the only items that are, it had okay and prohibited.
That's correct.
But I thought you had said it wasn't the entire.
That's on the C-17, it wasn't the entire.
Clarify, the NC couldn't have drive-throughs as well.
And the NC will not, cannot have drive-throughs.
And the NC cannot have drive-throughs, so that would mean a coffee shop couldn't have
There we go.
a drive-through window.
Well, these are the uses, and these are some of the uses. The C-17 has a full list of uses.
In the packet.
Right. And these are these are the
And the
12.
NC district, that's all the uses.
That's right. That's
There
correct.
aren't any variation from
There's
that
not.
list.
That's right.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have one.
Woody?
Mike, do you know when NC was established? You showed that one being rezoned that in 2011. So NC was around before 2011?
That is correct. I'm not for sure the exact date on when NC was established. It was prior to 2011. I don't know the date on that.
Could have been in 2007 is when the current ordinance involving NC.
Thank you. The other question I have was a difference between conditional zoning and development agreement. Are they one and the same, just different words?
Well, the conditional zoning will just tie with the land, and the development agreement gets into more specifics about what the developer will be tied to.
So it's like a
And Brandy
layer?
can go into a little more details about the development agreement.
Well, development agreement is an agreement. It's an agreement between two parties that is binding on themselves and on successors. Conditional zoning is just an action that's taken by council with respect to zoning. It's not an agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Vicky, did you have another?
I did, and I lost it again.
I have
Dan?
In the meantime, so just to drill down a little on that conditional zoning, I guess in my mind, because I'm thinking, okay, if we might get to a point where we would approve that, but we put the special conditions on the approval. Is that the special conditions on the zoning, is that the same thing as he's talking about conditional zoning?
Yes,
Okay.
conditional zoning are the conditions on the zoning that you apply.
That's all okay.
Okay.
I found it.
Okay, go.
I, and possibly you know this or not, but the gas station that's across the street, they're a C-17. So are they regulated by the number of tanks they can put in there?
I'm
Fuel
not
pumps?
aware of that regulation or who establishes that,
Okay.
the number of tanks. But
The
you talk
number-
about the number of pumps or the number of tanks?
Number of pumps of what they can do there. I always like to look at things with the unintended consequences
Yeah.
of what's going to happen in the future. And I don't know if they have a condition on there that says the number of fuel pumps that are there, that's all that can remain, or I guess
It's
I'm,
also based on the parking and the stacking. How does the car get in there? How does it line up to the
Got
pumps?
it.
So you're limited by the size of your site.
right. Okay, but that's all, possibly. So I'm just looking at, for these neighborhoods in the future, what if this happened? You'd have the same situation you would have if you had 4 more fuel pumps across the street. So I'm trying to make sure that we've addressed everything and watched out for those unintendeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Seeing no further questions, it is now up to the council to make a decision. Forward, Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to throw something out here because I don't feel like all hope is lost yet. First, I want to say, Mr. Singh, I think you do first-class business in this community, and I appreciate your diligence on that. I live near the Atlas and Celtice. It's fantastic. But I also understand the neighborhood desires and what they're afraid of. So I think that there's still an opportunity for the two groups to continue conversing. We could table this. You could have more time to talk, but I don't know what everyone's desire is. It seems like you're really close where and when I said earlier, when I asked questions about, well, they could just sell it because we know something's going to go there, I didn't mean to start any kind of threatening. That's just the obvious. I was trying to get out that this could be done. I don't think he's threatening anybody. He is a businessman. He does need to make a profit to have a business. Everyone can understand that. The neighborhood does care deeply about their flavor of their neighborhood and how it's going to impact them. Everyone can understand that. So I guess I'd like to throw out the idea that we table it and give you time to actually meet. And meet here. You don't have to go to a hotel. Use the community room, come back. You know, not everyone's going to get everything they want, but maybe you have a businessman here who's really trying to give you a good product for your neighborhood. And sounds like he's willing to take more input. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Jan?
Well, I'll give my 2 cents at this point. And this is one of the times where, I came in looking at this, looking at what we had heard and thinking, yeah, if it was just on the other side of 15th, but as, you know, a lot of what we do in decisions and neighborhood impact and everything, is oftentimes meeting in the middle. And, I'm acquainted with the properties too, and, worked at the courthouse 15 years, and man, was really happy when they took over the Chevron down there and all of that, and up the street, and we live in Coeur d'Alene Place, so yeah, use the other one. I guess, and what I'm hearing, before we went to, kicking it down the road or something, what I'm hearing is some compromise, because I think I heard from 4 pumps down to 3, but he's going to have pumps. Also, in terms of, there's a gas station across the street, but I think in terms of me and just the ordinary stuff, and if I lived on the east side of 15th and I needed gas for my lawnmower or snowblower or whatever, to be able to not have to, frankly, mess with crossing 15th and all that, to duck in there for a gallon of gas or my car, I think that would be pretty handy. And, the food options, so, it sounds like, and they're willing to, cut the lights off at 10 versus 11. So, I guess I'll hear the rest of the council discussion, but like I say, I've been moved in the meeting already, and there's, I didn't do any tabulation, but there's a whole lot of folks that have approved as well as, concerns, and so anyway, I want to hear more, but I'm leaning on the side of not kicking it down the road, so.
Other discussion?
Well, I'll just note that I'm comfortable making a decision tonight based on the amount of compromise that has already happened. I appreciate the neighborhood coming out and communicating both at the Planning Commission and tonight, because that's how we get a better product, so to speak, right? And how your voice is heard, and we can make some conditions if we were to move forward. So it's worth every minute of sitting in these, I know for you guys, very long meetings, but I think in the end, we'll get a better outcome. So I appreciate everybody, and whichever in favor or opposed, it really does help impact the face of our community, so thank you.
Woody?
Yeah, I don't think we should kick it, but my compromise, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, it looks like there's a lot. Seems like the sticking point between Andy and the neighbors is the gas. Everything seems to be okay if they didn't have gas. Andy's saying, I can't make it without gas. And along with gas, the trucks and the smell, and I know what it's like to live near a restaurant. You smell restaurants, you smell coffee shops. I thought that was a great analogy. It's just part of living in a city and part of having some nice things to use, even if you don't drink coffee or don't use gas, I'm not sure. I don't know. Without the gas, is he going to go forward? And they're pretty adamant about the gas being the stickler, and the justification is one across the street. It would seem like it's a whole different game, but that's kind of where I'm stuck at, and I'm hoping one of you guys comes through with a moment, a special ta-da moment.
Kiki, do you have that moment?
I don't know if I have a ta-da moment. I have But I do have some other observations I just want to close with. I think putting conditions on this approval, it sounds as though we don't hear developers coming forward saying, I'm going to put this in writing and I'll agree to all of these conditions very often. They just don't. And they have listened to the neighborhood. And I try to view this as, what are the consequences of an NC product coming in there? All of the not all, most of the things that these neighbors brought up, the traffic, the smell, the lights, all of those will exist the same way. There'll be businesses on the bottom with residential on top, and you won't be able to control the lights about what's happening with those residential on top. They can leave their lights on all night if they want to. The trucks are still going to show up to deliver food and whatever it is to the coffee shop or the dental office or whatever is in the bottom of that. The parking is probably going to be on the back. So what the neighborhood's going to end up with is less benefit out of that product in exchange for this fuel tank, this fuel situation. This is a guy building a brand. That's kind of what I see. He's buying more stores, and part of his brand is a grocery store with fuel and a high-end kind of offering. So I can't see why he would deviate from that whole product. And there's been a bunch of multifamilies that have been added on the 15th Street corridor, and there's more. This gives those multifamily units walkability to maybe a cool store where they'd rather pick up their stuff than be out on 15th and cause more traffic. So I think that you could put conditions like there needs to be signage that the trucks are one-way drive-through. You could do that. The fuel isn't going to be backed up into 15th Street. It has to come in and go out one way. And maybe put signage going up best if there's no truck traffic, no through trucks that can go up best. Those things can be incorporated into this. So I'm feeling like we have an opportunity to do something good for the neighborhood. There didn't used to be businesses on all the way up Best. I mean, those have come as we've grown. They didn't exist there when Amy and I were riding our bikes over there. There was a couple, but not many. The gas station was there. It wasn't, we are growing. But I think that to put something cool into a neighborhood that they can benefit from, even though this, fuel pump is a dislike, it might not, it might be the best of all the growth situations that come forward there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I think it's cool, and I appreciate all the work you put into that, Andy. When I ran for office, though, I promised that I would fight to preserve established neighborhoods. And while it's weird that there's this NC zone there, NC is neighborhood compatible. And so I'm good with NC. I think that changing it to C17 would adversely impact the established neighborhood. And as cool as the project is, as much as I think that would, and I appreciate what you pay your employees and all that, it's just not compatible with the neighborhood, and that's where I stand.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask, is it neighborhood commercial is NC or neighborhood compatible? It's neighborhood commercial.
Let me lie and say it's compatible.
Oh, the let you lie? Okay, you're right.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may take a stab at a motion?
Please.
Okay. Okay, guys, you're gonna have to help me a little bit with our new motion, and I apologize to everybody here, it's long. So I make the motion first and then go through findings, Randy, that's correct?
You can do it that way. I would
Well,
do
we
the,
have
I would do the
different-
findings,
Okay.
and then the motion comes at the end.
Got it?
Is
Okay.
that what they printed out for us?
This matter having come before the City Council on May 21st, 2024 to consider ZC 124, a request for a zone change from neighborhood commercial to C17 zoning district. Applicant is GS4 Property LLC, and the location is a parcel of land in the northwest quarter of Section 7, Township 50 North, Range 3 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, as adjusted on record of survey Book 21, page 85, Records of Kootenai County, and located on the southeast corner of the intersection of 15th Street and Best Avenue, being tax number 20177.
No.
I don't have to.
Just skip to the red parts.
The red parts.
Do we have to read all of this?
No, you can read the part in bold that you adopt findings A1 through A19 if you agree with those.
Perfect.
And then move on to subsection B.
Okay. So the city council finds that the following facts, A1 through A19, have been established on a more probable than not basis, as shown on the record before it and on the testimony presented at the public hearing. So I move that we adopt A1 through A. Well,
You've already said that by reading the
okay,
the
good.
bold.
We're good. Okay.
So now
This
you
is going to
can
go a lot shorter.
move to page 188.
Based on the forego findings of fact, the city council makes the following conclusions of law. B1, the proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. B2, public facilities and utilities are available and adequate for proposed use. B3, the physical characteristics of the site do make it suitable for the request. And B4, the proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. The City Council, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, has determined that the requested zone change does comply with the required evaluation criteria, and the zone change request is approved with conditions. I would recommend that the City Council also add conditions for this zone change.
Possibly adopt the rendering? Is that how deep we
And
want to go?
those can, stay with me just for 1 second.
Okay.
Those zone change would be, conditions for the zone change would be 1, low profile signs, 2, no LED reader boards, 3, no more than 3 fuel pumps, 4, canopy lights off at 10 p.m., and number 5, signage for traffic direction for deliveries in and out of the property.
That would become the development agreement in that? Is that what we're doing?
That would be another condition that the city enter into a development agreement with the applicant.
And number 6, that the city enter into a development agreement.
And how about the
Applicant.
rendering that we
Right,
looked
and
at?
then the development agreement will come back to the city council for approval once it's been drafted.
And
Doesn't
if
have
a
to be part of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second is appropriate now? I
How
would
about
second
the-
that,
Yes,
with
you
the
may second
conditions.
that.
Yes, for discussion, okay.
Thanks for your help, guys.
Good job. Hey, can we add the rendering? Do you want it to look like what we saw? You kind of stick it to them, this is,
Would that
What
be
you-
part of the development agreement?
oh, that's what I was wondering, yeah.
I'll take,
We can put that in the development agreement if that's what council wants.
so include the rendering that was shared tonight in the development agreement.
That can be a condition.
Second
Agreed, yeah.
agrees.
That was a staff member
We
who
were
did
so
that.
lucky.
Okay,
Thank
we-
you.
you have a motion before you. You wanted further discussion?
No, I'm just going to explain why I'm voting no.
Well,
So I'm going to explain that I'm voting no because I believe it does adversely impact the surrounding neighborhood. And I wanted to remind everyone that the development agreement does have to come back to council. So there's going to be another hearing, I believe, for that.
will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin,
No.
English,
Yes,
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Motion carries. That was,
I think we're still going here, right?
yeah,
I'll make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill number 24-1007 once by title only.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yeah.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Would the clerk please read the title?
Council Bill number Council Bill number 24-1007, an ordinance amending the zoning act of the city of Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, Idaho, known as ordinance number 1691, ordinances of the city of Coeur d'Alene, by changing the following described property from a neighborhood commercial to C17, commercial at 17 units per acre, said property being described as follows, to wit, the southeast corner of the intersection of 15th Street and Best Avenue, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing a severability clause, providing for the publication of a summary of this ordinance and an effective date hereof.
Move to adopt Council Bill 241007.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the discussion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Nope.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll now move on to a resolution regarding an agreement with TRI utility cost reductions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We bring before you a simple agreement that the city would enter into with TRI Utility Cost Reductions, Inc. for services related to auditing our electric bills and our natural gas bills. We have a number of those bills, as you've heard tonight. We have large utilities that use large sums of those commodities. Wastewater and water, those are enterprise funds, so we want to make sure that we're getting the best value we can and double check all of those rate codes that exist. TRI has been around a long time, and there is really no upfront cost whatsoever to the city of Coeur d'Alene. It's a partnership whereby if there is savings that are received, the savings actually would come back totally to the city, and then the city would pay this 50% of those refunds or credits that would be obtained by the work that this company would do. There's also the opportunity that some of those savings could go into the future, and those savings would be shared for up to a 36-month period of time. Again, we would reimburse TRI. The money would not go from any of these utilities directly to that company. So again, 35 years of experience in this business. It talks about its success ratio at 87% of those. Our representative is right here in Coeur d'Alene. They have worked with Chanel, Philip Morris, Niagara Mohawk, U.S. Air, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So a very straightforward agreement. This actually was worked on prior to something called a pandemic, if I go back in my records, and then we went sideways for a number of months, and our Mr. Dance has worked with us quite well on this. So I would stand for any questions you might have.
Yes, Christine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any questions, just an encouragement that everything I understand about this, and I've had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Dance, this is a great opportunity for the city, and is really no risk. And I think it's fantastic to do an audit. There's an awful lot of fees that don't really make sense, and they show up on the bill all the time, and maybe we can make some of that go away. So I'm completely in favor of this.
Well, why don't you make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Please do.
to approve agreement with TRI Utility Cost Reductions Incorporated for services related to a utility bill audit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have Captain Walther here, sole source vending.
I wonder if Captain Walther thought he'd be home by now.
Yes.
Good evening, Captain.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here requesting approval for a sole source expenditure for the purchase of and installation of police specific operational equipment for 7 police Ford Explorers in the amount of $130,534.77. This is with a company called Premier Vehicle Installations. We've used them for a long time. They provide a good product. They're familiar with our architecture. It's important that in a police car, because we share cars, that all of the equipment is set up the exact same way. So that if you need something, you don't have to go looking for it. The buttons are all in the same position. When responding to emergencies, that's an important aspect. They stand behind their product. They understand our standardization. They're also a company that has done this often enough that we don't have to send an employee to oversee the installation because they understand what we're looking for. And because it's a large company, they can buy in bulk. They can get us the equipment at a reduced rate. I will say that there was an oversight on our part. This should have been done when the vehicles were purchased. It was not. And so this work and this money has already been spent. And so I'm coming after the fact. And an oversight on our part. This should have been done when those vehicles were purchased originally. This is a company that we had moved away from, but with the supply chain, we weren't able to get vehicles anywhere, and so we ended up back with them.
Thank you. Questions?
Mr. Mayor, sounds like we need to fix this oversight. I would make a motion to approve resolution number 24-043, declaring there's only one vendor reasonably available for the purchase and installation of police vehicle emergency equipment, authorizing a contract with Premier Vehicle Installations for the same in the amount of $130,534.77, and directing the city clerk to publish notice of the sole surface expenditure. Sole source.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Woody?
Captain, I just noticed reading these invoices, is the labor included in these prices? There doesn't seem to be a labor line, or am I missing something?
The installation is the labor part.
It's included?
Yeah, it is included
Okay,
in that.
thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Captain.
Now you can go home.
Approving amendments to municipal code section allowing members of the public to testify.
Is it good morning yet?
Good morning.
Back on April 16th, 2024, at a city council meeting, council requested an amendment to municipal code section 1709-340 to allow testimony from the public in an appeal hearing of a design review commission decision. Following that council meeting, the city attorney drafted a code amendment that said precisely that, and it was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission as required by statute. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on that code amendment on May 14th of 2024. There was a lot of discussion. There were 3 motions that failed before the commission finally passed a motion recommending the approval of those amendments, but with the caveat that the amendments only apply to new appeals, that they would not apply to pending appeals. In other words, they would not apply to the upcoming appeal hearing of Ms. Woodard. So it is a recommendation to the city council. The city council is the final arbiter on amendments to ordinances. The council can accept the recommendation, it can modify the recommendation, and adopt an ordinance as it sees fit. I am available to take questions at this point.
Questions? Woody?
So would this be similar to what we just did tonight?
It would be similar, yes. The
So
public would be
kind of the
sworn
last-
in and testify, and
The last hurrah?
the last hurrah.
Okay.
Council can consider that public testimony in making its decision.
Mimi?
Would you please comment a little bit or reply on the public comments we heard earlier about the design review process my iPad died, and that's where my notes are, so but I see our citizen in the back who shared her comments, and about the ability to give comment at the design review process.
The current municipal ordinance allows the public to address the Design Review Commission. They, in fact, did so. They are limited in time, as they are at any other hearing, and the commission was able to hear the comments and take those into consideration.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Randy, this would basically turn it into a hearing where you would have the appellant would give their testimony, and then other people, just like the mayor did, would be allowed to come up and make comments.
That is true, with the caveat that the council did not direct a change in the ordinance to the effect that council must accept the evidence, only the evidence that was presented at the Design Review Commission, and must accept findings of fact by the Design Review Commission if they are supported by substantial evidence. So the parameters of the appeal are the same. You're just hearing additional information. So essentially, it may not be testimony, but the public could make an argument based on the record and try to convince council that Design Review Commission did the right thing or did not do the right thing.
Would this also prevent, or how would this treat people who wanted to make public comment?
It would not affect public comment.
But then we wouldn't be telling people that they couldn't make public comment regarding a design review.
Typically, when we have a public hearing, we require the public to make their comments during the public hearing instead of both at public comment and at the public hearing.
But if they make their comment at the hearing, they're limited to what they can say.
They're limited to making argument on the facts that have been presented.
Is that, along those lines, is that what we just did?
No,
Okay.
what you just did is a little bit different because it's a zone change and it is a recommendation. Council makes the final decision on all zone changes.
Okay. And that
In
do
this
findings.
case, council only makes a decision if there's an appeal from the Design Review Commission.
Okay, got it.
So how would council wish to act?
Let me
on
ask
this?
one more question if I could. So,
Sure.
does it change the, I'm thinking here, so would it change the, I lost it, sorry.
I have a question, if, Mr. Mayor, if I could, while Woody's thinking.
What's that?
I have a question I can
Well,
ask. while
Yeah, I
Woody's-
lost it. I passed it over
while
to
he's-
him.
While he's thinking.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I think I'm losing it tonight here.
Well, it's getting late and we're not drunk yet. So I have a question. Randy, so we tabled the last decision, the appeal done by Ms. Woodard. Is that still in limbo, or is she timed out, or what's the status of that?
It's still in limbo. There are no time requirements for the city council to make a decision on an appeal. So you tabled it, which means you basically continued the hearing to another date. So
And-
the public hearing is still open and would just continue.
Okay, good. And I've noticed that here with, our planning commission has recommended that these changes that we make not apply to her
Pending.
particular issue.
Correct.
And we can throw that out if we
You
want to.
can do what you would like with it.
Thank you.
So,
Wait,
along those lines, we're talking Marriott still? Is that what
Well,
this is?
This is more of a process thing. I don't want to
Gotcha.
get into the
But it's
weeds.
going to affect Marriott if we throw
Yes.
that out. So the question to you then is, Marriott was zoned and okayed, and now it's being appealed. Does that change anything on their part? Does it delay their motion, or
Well, it has delayed it to the next,
to now?
to June 4th is when the appeal will be finally heard and hopefully completed. So the process did delay them, but depending on what happens on June 4th,
Okay.
then it moves forward from there.
So this has nothing to do with the June 4th date, or it does?
It will color what happens on June 4th. You will either hear public testimony, public comment on June 4th, or you won't.
Okay, got it.
And another follow-up,
Just a minute.
just,
Kiki?
I want to be clear on this angle of it. We are approving an amendment to a municipal code, but it just applies to the Design Review Commission. Are we putting on staff then that this code applies to Design Review Commission appeals, but there could be appeals from other commissions that this type of code doesn't apply to? Are we creating this because of this particular situation, but should it apply to all of our appeals, or are we being short-sighted in even having that part of the conversation?
Well, the only direction was with regard to this particular municipal code regarding the Design Review Commission.
So I just feel like are we
You
making
can't-
code for one particular situation in one particular point in time?
There are some other situations in which public comment is allowed or public testimony is allowed during an appeal. Mostly the code is silent on whether that's allowed. So you could certainly make an argument that it is allowed if it's not forbidden. But it would be nice to be uniform.
I guess, thank you, that's, I think, my point, is that
Actually, I think what you're doing is you're creating more uniformity because the exception was with regard to this particular action that where the only testimony was from the record and nothing else could be brought forth. Did I say that right?
Well, no, not exactly.
That's what I thought.
What we're changing is who can testify. It
Yes.
used to be just the applicant, city staff, the
Right.
representatives,
Thank you.
and not the public. This just increases it by allowing the public to testify or give comment.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to state my thoughts on it, that we are the last, I guess,
Last hurrah.
the last body that represents the public. The public has an opportunity to speak to us. And I think we can practice discernment on whether it falls within, their comments fall within the design review restrictions or not. I think all of us have been around long enough to understand what to disregard and what not to. I'd like to err on the side of always allowing public comment. I think that's expected of us, and that's what I would support.
Yes.
And I'll just add my thoughts. I do agree on addressing this and making an amendment. Where I am facing a obstacle, so to speak, is changing it for the Marriott appeal. I'm struggling with changing something midstream, and that just doesn't seem equitable to all parties involved, that we're changing direction through while the process is happening. So I don't know if legal has any thoughts on that. Moving forward, yes, and for future appeals, yes.
Well, the Planning Commission had similar comments. There are cases out there from the Idaho Supreme Court as well as the U.S. Supreme Court, which the legal term is ex post facto law, which Dan may be familiar with. That does not apply to procedural matters. So in other words, you can't change the penalty of a crime. You can't change the elements of a crime. But you can change the procedure of how a court hears a particular matter. And so it's your legal counsel's opinion that this procedural change is constitutional and does not violate any rights.
So I think it'd really be swell if council made a motion. And I think that the original intent was to allow that for this particular event that we've been wrangling for quite some time. You're going to make a motion, Dan.
Yeah, first comes the easy motion, which is just to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill 1004 once by title only, but I am going to recommend that we remove the addition on section 4, which makes it, doesn't apply to the pending hearings. I'd like to have it apply to the pending hearing.
Second.
Discussion?
I have
Clerk,
a-
take,
Oh,
What?
I know you're tired, just.
No,
bear-
it's fine.
Bear with me.
It's fine.
Okay, we'll get through this. Randy, so by taking it off, there's no recourse for Marriott to come out and take our money?
Well, they can always.
You mean sue us?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I don't like using that word. Thank you.
As I always tell everybody, you can sue anybody for anything, just pay your money.
Okay. I know
Is
this.
it a valid lawsuit? In my opinion, no.
Okay, thank you.
And I did speak with Marriott's attorney. They really want to get moving on June 4th and not delay this any further.
Okay, thank you.
will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Oh, yeah.
Motion carries.
And then I'm going to make a motion to adopt Council Bill 241004.
Whoops, you know what? We didn't read the title first.
I'm sorry, please read the
Will the
title.
clerk read the title, please?
It's at the bottom of the page.
Council Bill Number 24-1004, an ordinance providing for the amendment of Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code 17-9340, relating to appeals of a decision of the Design Review Commission, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for the publication of a summary of the ordinance, and providing for an effective date thereof.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Council Bill Number 241004 and remove the provided clause at the end of Section 4.
Second.
A motion and a second for the discussion on the motion. Yes, Kiki.
I would just like to add that I would hope that as time allows in the future, we look at some uniformity in the appeals process and the public involvement.
Here.
Good idea. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
And next, we are going to talk about the scofflaws abusing our launch privileges.
Oh, no, I thought the building sidewalk.
Oh, for that. Not the sidewalks yet.
Nobody is listed.
Pardon?
Nobody was listed to
Because we
give
don't want to
this.
hear a staff report.
You're always the guy.
Well, thank you, Randy, for stepping up.
This was a motion by council to add this $1,000 civil penalty for launching a commercial vessel from the Third Street docks without a permit. So the council's already acted on this, but the civil penalty needs to be addressed in the ordinance because right now the ordinance says that it would be an infraction or, so we need to address this specific instance in the ordinance.
Okay.
Sounds cool. So let's make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill Number 241005 once by title only.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Clerk, take the roll, please.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
Motion carries. Will the clerk read the title, please?
Council Bill Number 24-1005, an ordinance providing for the amendment of Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code Section 4-15130 regarding enforcement and penalties for commercial launch of watercraft, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for the publication of a summary of the ordinance, and providing for an effective date thereof.
And now, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adopt Council Bill Number 241005.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
Motion carries. Hi, Chris.
Hi,
Did you get him some coffee?
good morning. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for sticking through to the bitter end. A while back, a few council meetings ago, Councilman Gookin had asked that we revisit the dollar value trigger for building permits, which requires a person to put in curb and sidewalk when they don't have any. There are a few exceptions to that that deal with topography of their site, meaning that if it's essentially too high off the street or too low off the street where they couldn't feasibly put one in, they'd have an exception, or if there are no sidewalks within 450 feet of that site. The dollar threshold for a building permit valuation in the past was $30,000. That was set in 2009 using inflation values. That brings it to just over $44,000 in today's value. So I set this at $45,000. You are obviously free to change that number if you feel it should be higher, but it has been disproportionate at $30,000 when somebody pulls a $30,000 building permit and then they're required to put in, say, $20,000 worth of sidewalk in front of their house. So this is a little more fair to those people doing small home improvements. This doesn't get into whether if somebody is re-roofing, re-siding, replacing their AC units, things like that. This doesn't apply to those things either. I would stand for any questions.
Woody?
So would it, people can put $30,000 in a bathroom pretty easily, or a kitchen, would it trigger it then?
Yes, it would.
Okay, and if they're already in the house in an older part of town, do they start over, or they can patch, fix, things like that, or is it tear it all out and put it all in new?
Are you talking sidewalk?
Yeah, sidewalk,
So
curbing.
if this is different than if somebody already has sidewalk. If they have sidewalk, no matter what, they're required to bring it up to ADA compliance.
Gotcha.
Sometimes the cross slope is too much and they'd have to replace a lot of it. Sometimes there are just a few heaved panels, tripping hazards. They can sometimes grind those or replace a panel or two to get there. This is for if they don't have any sidewalk at all, but say their neighbors do. Then they would have to put theirs in also, which can be substantial depending on how many feet they would have to put in.
So this wouldn't apply to where the big trees are heaving the sidewalks. Would that fit into that category?
Well, that again would be where they have existing sidewalks, so they would still have to address that. Yeah, this is for when they have no sidewalks.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I remember I was at the meeting, at the hearing in 2009. I actually believe the mayor broke the tie because it was $15,000 and they doubled it to $30,000 because things were getting more expensive. But I brought this forward, and I think it was because of the Safeway, and they wanted to do a major remodel, and then they found out that they would have to redo all their sidewalks. And that was more expensive than the remodel. So they decided not to do the remodel, which is not pro-business. And I want to throw this out here because I know that we're going from 30,000 to 45,000 and things are always getting more expensive. What if we just pegged the value at a percentage of what their assessed property value is, as opposed to setting a discrete value? So if we say that if the cost of the improvements are more than 25% of the assessed value of whatever it is that's being improved, that's when it triggers whatever this is. Because I'm trying to think of, like Woody said, if you're going to remodel a bathroom, it's going to be $30,000 to $40,000 these days. If you're going to do a kitchen, it's going to be $80,000 to $100,000. And these used to be just considered, I'm getting new cabinets or new flooring, and now it's like, now I have to put in, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars of sidewalks, which means I'm not going to do it. But I think if it was a higher threshold based on the property value of the home, then you can have someone who would be more willing to go ahead and pay someone to remodel their home, support that business, and not trigger another expense. That's just a thought I'd throw out to council.
Well, but he's saying that this is new sidewalk, right?
Is
This is a place
that it? Is it just the sidewalk? Is that all that it
You
triggers?
don't have a sidewalk, you do this, now you have to put in a sidewalk, yes?
Correct. Curb and sidewalk. It applies to both. We don't have that many places in town that don't have curb. But we do have a lot of places, especially in the older parts of town, where we do not have sidewalks.
And how
This
about
is
the
where
country?
that would apply to.
Out there off of Atlas, the cowboy people up against.
Indian Meadows.
Here. So Hayden Meadows, no sidewalks, country. So I'm sorry, just something to go out there, so that would trigger for them to, they could be the only people on the street to have a sidewalk, right?
No, if they're not within 450 feet of an existing sidewalk,
Oh, okay.
they would not have
So
to.
we
There
don't
are
do sidewalks and
exemptions.
we'll be okay. Okay, all right, sorry.
Well,
Dan?
yeah, I think this is good, and, but I think it should be a bit higher threshold again, because it's kind of like, you know, when we used to deal with council raises, we only did it once in a while. So I would think if last time it was half again, I don't know. Anyway, I would like it to be at least 50, maybe 60, but
Do we hear 70?
double.
$1 million.
Well, if we go, rather than continuing to have to raise it,
Yeah.
if we go with a percentage of the value of the home, I think that makes a lot more sense.
Of the assessed,
Yeah, county
most
assessed
recent
value.
assessed, except does it get tricky if there's other parcels or something, or?
What lift if in
Ask Troy about assessed values.
Mr.
It's
Mayor?
not a good number. He doesn't
Yeah.
like
Is it appropriate for staff to hear our feedback and come back to us with
That's exactly what
recommendations?
I was,
There we go.
I was trying to spit out
Yes.
and unable to do so. I would suggest that we have staff take a look at that and bring something back to us. Is that okay with council?
Yes, sir.
So a
All right.
percentage of the assessed value, yeah.
Or some like formula that isn't just based on
Just
an
discrete value.
inflationary
And some
index.
examples of assessments, you know,
There we go. Okay.
300,000, 400,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, then we don't have to fool with it anymore
Figure
because
out math on our
it
own.
goes with inflation.
We'll put you at the front of a meeting instead
I
of
was going to
the
say,
end.
can I go first next time?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that item is tabled for now. Do I need a motion for that?
Yeah, you should do a motion to table
Motion to table.
Second?
Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood,
Voice vote.
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English.
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Dan has to stay.
Despite